Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to ShJuawnCast number 3. I am Juan Carlos Gonzalez Jr., along with my buddy old pal, Shawn Nolan.
Hey, how you doing?
We're tickled pink to be here yet again to entertain you or bore the shit out of you, as the case may be.
Yeah.
How's it going, buddy? Haven't seen you in a few weeks. I haven't seen you really.
It's been okay. I've been kind of messing around with some ideas and equipment because I'm trying to get this little side thing going.
Me too.
And it's some of it's been going okay. I was doing some because I'm shooting. I hate calling it a documentary, but like I said, the non-fiction
narrative.
Yeah, the non-narrative project. So I'm shooting it on an iPhone, and
nice.
I've been doing all this information, like if I'm capturing it on this microphone, and it's going to patch in through this, through the iPhone, and what's the setting I want to do for the visual, and what's the because it turns out that my phone actually captures video at like different
compressions, are you saying, or different formats?
Even frame rates, which I was like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
like yeah. I'm Ang Lee and I'm doing Gemini Man or something,
or Peter Jackson doing the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at you, boy, stepping up in the world.
Yeah. And I've run into a little bit of a wall because I'm now having a hard time figuring out where to actually shoot we'll call it my, not Errol Morris type stuff, but just like the one-on-one type of things.
Yeah, like this that we're doing right now.
Yeah, well,
like
it's not going to be like the Interrotron where I'm staring straight into the camera. But there is quite a few sections of it which are very like, as the name of my little sidecast is called, the confessions. That's what I like to call it. This is the confessions part of it. So
that's for our first time listeners, or the people who don't pay attention to us when we talk. We just are garbling on in the background. If you just leave us on in the background, that's Shawn's podcast, Confessions of a of a method writer. I was gonna say dangerous mind.
It's a little bit of a pretentious title.
It's a wee bit.
Yeah.
It's a little sprinkling of pretentious.
It's actually a little bit of a deep cut based on something that I had written like over 10 years ago, and it's which I'll have to get into one day because I'm almost gonna disown or disavow everything I wrote about with this thing. Because I just I don't believe in it anymore. So.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Do you want to go into that a little bit, or not really?
Okay, so it's okay. So to really get into it, it's almost say 15 years ago. That would make it. So it's a little over 15 years ago. I was actually having a conversation. In between classes when we were going to school with one of our classmates. I'm not going to get into names, but it's a classmate. You know the classmate.
Don't.
And
I think I don't know.
There was, it's actually two different conversations, but I was telling this conversation to the person about how somebody else that we had been going to class with, got very honest with me and said, I think maybe you get too personal with what you do.
I remember this. I remember you mentioning this. Yes.
And felt like, why don't, it's almost kind of like the whole thing about Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. He's like, why don't you just try acting? It was like... And my thought behind it was, the way I write is that I have to kind of like get into the mood of it. And I was like, what's wrong with being a method writer?
Sure.
And, I didn't mean for it to sound this way, but I guess the person took it as an insult. Like they just they don't give a shit about what they do.
Oh boy.
So the person I was having a conversation with about this said, well, why is it that you need to do that? And I was like, I don't know. It helps me tell the story. Sometimes by doing it, the characters tell me what the story is. And they went, what the fuck are you talking about?
Whoa, really?
Aren't you the one who tells the story? I'm like, well, I mean, I come up with the characters, but sometimes the things get developed because I start getting into something. You know, maybe it's a discovery. And I just remember this person sitting there in this diner going, wow, man, you need to, like, get out more. There was more to it, but that's kind of the gist.
That's the gist.
Yeah, you know, it wasn't unfriendly. It was actually a very nice conversation.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like, well, okay, you know, I could be wrong. You don't need to do this, and you don't. You don't need to do this. But I started kind of getting into wanting to, figure out, well, what's this whole idea about being a method writer? So I started kind of looking at, well, what is it about being a method actor, and how can this be applied to that? And I wrote something, actually a very long something, and I reread it a couple years back, and it's a lot of garbage.
Wow, go figure. Okay.
You know, it's very a lot of reaching. And almost kind of like I wanted certain things to kind of make sense, and it's I'm not that kind of writer. Somebody who is like more of a from a science point of view, like research and development, trying to getting into the psychology of why somebody writes. It doesn't. That's not my strong suit. I'm sure that there are a lot more able-bodied people, smarter people than me that probably could have figured this out. So
yeah. Well, even then, thanks for sharing that. By the way, I mean, it's sort of part of the journey, right? Because I guess by sort of fessing up to that doesn't mean that you've. I don't think that would technically mean that you figured it out. It's just that you sort of figured out your own way of getting to that point, as opposed to other people doing it.
Yeah. I don't think there's any right or wrong way of doing it. I think maybe that was one of the reasons why maybe I felt a little offended, because it's like, well, why are you putting down, like, yucking my yum?
Well, yeah, it helps me immensely when I can get into that zone.
Yeah.
And especially when it happened today, actually, where I was just doing other odds and ends, and there was like I don't know if you get this feeling where it's just, you sort of get the I guess for lack of a better term, a kind of focus that happens, right? Or it's like suddenly like a little door opens where it's like, okay, this way is available now if you go into this little area, and you can write whatever is in there, as it were, right? Not technically like that, but it kind of feels that way a little bit, right? Where it's that, in other words, you can say that the ground is ready, it's fertile, and then you can just go ahead and just plant or extract or whatever it is that you want to do. From a writing perspective, anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I was very glad to hear that you shouted out to me in your cast about how.
Well, yeah.
How I appreciated the work that you put in at school, because you were working things out. I think
I appreciated that too.
What I originally said was, it's almost like a comedian going to the club.
Yes, you did say that. Yes. I was in the mind space yesterday, where I guess the whole structure of what you said, basically, I had to reiterate that. Except for that part. That part didn't even come into my head. It was just like that one piece that was just like, hey, yeah, you're working it out. I wish I remembered the comedian metaphor, but
I think that's what is. I don't even remember if that is what I said, but
yeah, it was.
Okay.
Because I whenever you send me the completed the mesh, right? Because what we do is that, for anybody listening, Shawn records it on his end, his vocals, and I record my end, and then I send it to Shawn, who dutifully, matches everything up. and then sends it back to me, and we have a podcast essentially. So I'm sure we always like go back to listen to it. Especially I had to listen to the first one a few times because we just did this chapter video kind of thing, experimental, where you know, I don't know what the hell we're going to do for, I mean, this is a side conversation really, but I don't know what the hell we're going to do for actually, you know, having like a video thing happening in the background. So I thought, okay, maybe we can just do something like whenever we happen to be talking about, we'll do these topics that just flash on the screen, right? So anyway, yada, yada, yada. You can find that on the YouTube page. Don't want to go off and on that. But anyway, you were saying you were talking about my shout out to you.
I kind of, you know, not that it's like the type of thing like, oh God, he spoke about me, yes. But I was glad to hear that it was something I always kind of appreciated about the, you know, almost the community of the people that we were around, and like the people who were there maybe with as much, like, I don't know, the people that wanted to be there, who kind of gave a fuck, even if it was just a little bit. And that always kind of felt great. It was like you came in with some, you know, not you, but like if you came in with some crazy shit where you're like, I want this story to be, it's going to be like this guy who's a dinosaur, and you know, it takes place in the 1950s, and he's trying his best to you know, not let anybody realize he's a dinosaur. And that everybody's so stuck in this like 1950s perfect thing, like, and you're just like, well, at least it's different, you know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. That was just right off the top of the dome. I couldn't
spitting off top of the dome.
Yeah,
Sean Nolan.
Because I don't know if you remember, I was like, I want to try something a little different, and I brought in, I think I was like 20 to 30 pages in on a script. And then I was just like listening to it, and I went, "Yeah, this isn't working."
Well, okay, come on. What was this?
This was the. I don't remember what I had as a working title, but the main character's name was Lucian Wick.
Of course, I remember that.
Yeah.
Of course, I remember that. Yeah, and especially with the John Wick movies, the last couple of years. So when I first heard of John Wick, I thought immediately of Lucian Wick. Of course, it was a detective thing, wasn't it?
Well, no, this is what's really...
it was a stylized detective thing.
No, this is what's...
Not even.
This is how forgettable it is. The name is memorable, because I still like the name Lucian Wick.
Lucian Wick.
And the way I got the name Lucian kind of like that was that there was a... Oh, God, it might actually be his name.
Really?
I believe Lucian Wick was one of Jack Kerouac's friends.
Oh, shit.
And he had a pencil thin mustache and like some strange like hair kind of fluked to the side and almost stuck out. Yeah. I guess you steal from things. You're like, oh, that's a cool name. I'm gonna steal that.
Well, no, you know what I thought you did there, though? Because Lucius, it means light, essentially, luce, right, in Latin. So you have the wick part, so it's like if I imagine this guy was eventually going to burn himself out or the converse.
The idea, the guy was going, he was, I think it was that he becomes so obsessed about something, and I think it was so, the motivation was so dumb. I think it had to do with like, he was going to school, but he was going to school for something different. I can't remember what it was. He had a job, and almost like a full-time job, and was also trying to come to terms with an on-off relationship. And I couldn't figure out why I gave a shit anymore about this guy living anymore. But the idea was that like he was burning himself out.
He's burnt up.
His name's Wick.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is going nowhere. But I did have something I was experimenting with it having like these moments in it that almost didn't. They furthered the character but didn't further the plot. and where he would almost talk to people on the street, and they would talk to him as if they knew him, which is probably some Annie Hall shit that I have going in there. I do remember the script does start with him and his ex-girlfriend having a conversation where all they do is say the word fuck, and it goes on for like 2 pages. That's the only word they say to each other.
How do I not remember this?
Yeah,
did you read this? Did you bring this into class?
I did.
How did I not remember this?
And it went over like a lead balloon. It was...
Well, someone remembers because I don't, obviously.
And that was when
It's
I
a
was...
testament to its quality.
What was interesting about it is I remember that I'm not saying anything bad here, so I'll just stand there. Amanda said, when I came in the week I decided, I was like, oh, I'm not bringing any more of this in. And Amanda came in, I says to me, he goes, it's like, are we reading any more of this, of that story you have?
Yeah.
Because I guess she went, I don't know, maybe she, she liked that I was bringing in some bad stuff. So,
wow.
I was like, no, I have something new. And it was like, because I think we had like a small class the day I did this.
Yeah, one of them.
So I was like, if nobody minds, I was like, I got 20 pages of stuff I just wrote. And this was my older sister. And none of it's funny, which I think was, people thought I wrote stuff that was supposed to be funny, or at least I thought was funny.
Yeah, right.
And it was like,
there it is.
On page 4, an 8-year-old girl gets shot off of a snowmobile. And
that's not funny the way you're saying it.
Suzanne goes, what the Jesus. I'm like, it's a part of the story.
Suzanne, everybody. Suzanne was our screenwriting teacher for 2 years, right? Wasn't she for? Was that
something
no?
Like
wait. Was this no? Second year was with Joan. Third year was Suzanne.
Second year was with Joan and Melissa Miller.
Melissa Miller, yes, yes, and Everett Azen was there for a brief week or two. Yeah.
So
Melissa Miller, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I think because the tone was so different that it was like it took Suzanne a little by surprise. Like, whoa,
yeah, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
It'd always be fun trying to throw her a curveball every once in a while. It happened way too often, especially with my scripts. But it's like she'd be like, she'd slow down and like, what is this?
What was it? The globe-trotting like epic you had about the wedding and the
wedding. Yeah, because I was like, I want to do like a romantic comedy, and it's just like this huge blurgy thing that just went all over the place.
I can't remember what the title was, but I remember I used to just keep calling it Zero Tolerance or something.
No, you came up with it. See, whenever I think of that script, I always think of the title that you come up. Here you go. Here it is. Let's see it.
Assholes to Havana. Is that
exactly? Yeah. Which would not play well. Maybe it would play well in today's environment. Who knows? But we'll see.
Yeah.
But do you wanna circle back to your post SVA agent story?
Sure. Yeah.
You couldn't get back to.
We got so sidetracked. I don't want this to be about like hey, what else did I write? Anyway, so
it'll turn into that eventually for both of us, I think.
So, upon like the graduation coming up, I was given suggestions about what to do with trying to get work out there. Yeah. Okay. So I was given the tip about trying to get you get in touch with either agents or crap like that using Script Blaster.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I instead of having to send these query letter out to all these companies and these contacts, this was a suggested thing. So I guess Script Blaster was a service. If I remember, you uploaded like a script, you signed a certain waiver for reading or some shit like that. I don't remember it too well, but All I do remember is that I got 4 contacts out of it. Two people I actually spoke to, and one person actually was more than one conversation. And like it was a little misleading because what happened was it was, the guy read it, or at least he read enough of it to make believe he wrote it. He read it. This went on for like a couple of weeks where there was a little bit of correspondence going on. And then what he said to me, he goes, well, for us to take this, take this to the next level, I feel that there could be some improvements and work to be done on this. So I offer this service and I went, fuck.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm like, I know what he's about to say. He's about to say, I can coach you to do. Now, I was very proud of the thesis I wrote, and it was really, great and everything.
Sure, man. Yeah.
Make it, don't make it. It wasn't really the point. It was me trying to figure out a way to perhaps make get a job, do something. And all this guy was interested in doing was me paying him money for him to basically do nothing with this, because it was like a resume piece. I was like,
what is this?
Yeah, like what do you want? Like this isn't like me taking acting classes from you.
Exactly.
And I said to him, I was like, are you looking to do like me to pay you to help me rewrite my script? He's like, it's a service. And I was like, you told me. Yeah. I was like, you said to me that you were a representative. And he says, no, I never said that. And I'm like, actually, you did.
Holy shit.
I was like, I told you on the first time we spoke that I was looking for representation, and that this was a resume piece, this script. And he goes to me, well, in the business and this, and I was like, well, I'm not. I said, I'm not interested in producing this, okay? And he says to me, he goes, all right, well, then if you don't want my services. And I said to him, I was like, well, I don't know what exactly is it you want me to do? And he's just like, well, this is how it works. You pay me, and I provide a service for you, and then we see what happens.
What is this? It's like the blandest contract.
And I said, I was like, so if I'm not interested in producing this, I'm paying you for me to write a script? I was like, when I can do that for free at home?
Yes.
And he says, well, you have to understand, you don't know how the business works. I was like, I'm not sure if you do either.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Right. Wow.
This is before kind of like being able to Google things. So I was like, there wasn't really a lot I could find out about this guy. And I was like, a lot of shysters out there. And,
really. Like, I'll see myself out.
Yeah. And that was kind of sad, and maybe kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah,
of course. After that, are you kidding me? God damn! Wow.
So,
wow.
It's not a great story, but it is something that like I think kind of haunts me a little bit with like, this is what to expect. If you were to come out of school and you did all this work and say, not for nothing, I had just been getting one-on-one, like script treatment from somebody I knew had professional credentials.
Right.
So why was I going to pay this guy to do the exact same thing?
Same thing, yeah. What was his rate? Did he get as far as that? Just out of curiosity?
No, I was like,
no. To sign shit? Like, what do you like? You're signing something like, "Hey, I can do whatever I want with your script," basically.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's something that, like, when people used to ask me, they're like, "Well, did you get like an agent and get some of your work optioned?" And I'm like, I don't even know how the hell you were supposed to do that, because I tried, and this was, this was the vulture that I seem to have run into.
Well, that's sort of the hurdle, right? Because, well, aside from your vulture, right? Because nowadays it seems like even then, I remember Mark DeGasperi, who was our master screenwriting teacher. Yeah. That was the name of the class, master screenwriter. He had suggested that we would what was that name? What was the name of that publication that he suggested we look into? That it was like this thick kind of like phone book for writers, for screenwriters in the industry. Do you remember what that was called?
I don't.
But do you remember it though? Do you remember?
Yes.
He showed it to us. He brought it to class, and I remember making a point, ironically, trying to burn it in my brain what this was. I remember looking into it a little later, but now I obviously seem to have forgotten. But what he suggested was like, okay, start reaching out to producers. But that's sort of, that in a weird way, not to change the subject at all, but it's like business sense or lack thereof is something that we're not taught. Even you're supposed to be street smart, right? Ideally, to the point, but that doesn't happen unless you go out of your way to learn it, and that's like the school of hard knocks, basically, like what you guys went through, well, at the time anyway. And I remember we had the one, was it like one semester of entertainment law? Remember that? Senior year? Because it's ladies and gentlemen, he remembers.
The only thing I remember about that is we had to write a contract. With it was a team of people.
Yeah.
And I remember that it was like somebody's going to be is going to be the talent, and the other person's going to be the money, or some shit like that. That's going to be the
holy shit, really?
That's going to be the two teams.
I don't remember that.
So
I was in the team.
See, there was going to be the production company, and then there was going to be the director. Mm-hmm. And I remember that I was on the producer's team, not the director's team. And there was a guy on the director's team who, when we would do the whole thing, would be like, well, we would give you such and such as director, such and such as writer. And he just goes, no, I want my full rate for both.
Exactly what I was saying. Here you go.
I remember that somebody on my team was just like, well, we'll counter you by saying you can do this and that, but you'll get this many weeks to do your edit. And he just goes, no, I want the full amount of weeks for post, and I want my full rate as a writer and director.
And I want a final cut.
And and just kept saying this. And the interesting thing is that the other two people that were on his team saying nothing. And we had a very strong...
Wow, look at him go.
Yeah, I remember this distinctly because we had a very strong-headed person on the producer's team. And she says, stop being a fucking asshole. We just need to finish this project, okay? Yeah.
This is why I wish we were actually recording the video, because the look he just gave me, we're like, who is this guy? Oh man!
Like we're doing like improv, and we've gotten characters. Yes. And you do realize this is not a real contract, right? Like, can we go through this? We're supposed to build a contract, not have you come in here and start throwing your weight around. But. Anyway, the entertainment law thing. But
the entertainment law. But the thing is that sort of reinforces my point in the sense that we only had one semester of this, and to people who are just, I'm generalizing here, but who just come from to this craft, or industry, right? With the creative sensitivity, business may not be your strong suit. Negotiations may not be your strong suit at all. And that's one thing that, in hindsight, when you look back on to the SVA experience, as it were, or the film school experience, granted, we only went through the SVA ones, but that lack of savvy is just, that's a killer, I think, too. Because if you don't have, imagine, Shawn, if you didn't had the wherewithal to say no to that guy, you'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I'll give you money for something I already know, or that I can do for free. Let's see where this goes, And then who knows what this guy would have done next? He probably would have kept milking you, I guess, along the way.
Well, I did share this story with, somebody from one of the instructors from school,
sure.
And her response to me was, "Oh yeah, that guy's not. That's not a real contact. That's somebody.
Oh shit, man.
That's somebody just trying to feed off of your
parasite.
Off of your
talent.
Well, I was going to say so much talent because you could be untalented and still be gullible.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, you're right. I am the type of person who does not do well with, say, the business side of things, even so much as, and this has always been my problem, I can't sell myself.
Right.
Which actually has become a recent problem, with my recent departure from my most latest job.
Sure.
I had a hard time selling myself.
Interesting.
And there were people that I associated with from class back then, a different class actually, that I could talk everything about, like, oh, I want to do this project and I want to blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And they're like, I was like, but the one thing I'm not very good at doing pitches or log lines. I have to kind of like really obsess about the
sharpen
log.
that.
Yeah. My log lines sometimes are good. And the sharp response I got from one individual said this to me. Oh, well, if you can't do that, then you can't sell yourself. Then you can't be a writer. And I was like, oh,
wow.
Okay.
We're just chain of like detonation there.
Well, for what it's worth, this was hot off of having gone to a seminar about learning. Not me, this individual. A seminar about learning about getting the pitch, doing the log line, and they were like,
right.
They were still high on the supply of getting this.
Right,
and I was
right.
like, well, I work so hard on trying to do the craft of the writing, I didn't think about how is best to sell it.
Yeah.
So that seems to be, that's a long-term problem.
Well, you know what I think it is too, frankly? It's just, and of course, full disclosure, I have no career in the film industry at the moment, in the film media, entertainment industry. Like only on the extreme periphery, if you can even call it that. And
I have even less.
Which, if you're listening to us, you're just really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. We're just like, you're sitting around the campfire next to the old bridge, leading to good old Los Angeles. But it's it comes with, you know what? Part of that savvy, I think, comes with knowing the environment and knowing the players involved a little bit, because it's strange. It's like if you like sort of separate yourself from the artistry of it and look at it as an industry, right? At the end of the day, people make decisions, and that's what makes industries go, for good or for ill, right? It doesn't mean they all make sagacious decisions, but you're in that environment where you can have somebody say, or you can talk with somebody. It's off the cuff. For goodness sake, it's not like everybody who makes films is perfect. It's far from it, right? This is interesting. I don't know if this relates. I don't think this relates at all, but. Well, maybe not overtly, as far as I know, but I'm reading. I'm still reading about the Mansons, the Manson family, the Mansons, the Manson family,
the Manson family,
and the Manson. And I didn't know this, but I started reading this book called The Family by Ed Sanders, and I started reading this chapter about the Polanskis, right? And I'm very much at the beginning of this chapter, and Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate, I think she was born into this family of, I don't know if it was like the armed services. Her parents would just travel around, and she ended up being in Italy, and she was on a set, and she was turned onto acting by do you know the answer to this? Richard Beymer, Twin Peaks. Really? Yeah. I was like, are you serious? When I read that, I was like, are you serious? And that was like, she was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot. I had no idea. The point of this is like, hey, it's like this girl had like, a star study. She was just going to go out, and it's like, when you see it, I don't know how she was, honestly. I don't know too much about Sharon Tate. Somehow I don't think what Tarantino showed in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was what she was like a little bit. That's sort of like his ideal maybe of what she was like, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Yeah, but either way, the point I was trying to extract from this is that like you sort of fall into this, I suppose, or you feel the calling or whatever it is. And we both got it, you and me, at one point or another. Be like, hey, you know what? We should probably consider, focusing in on this because there's something magical about this maybe. And let's see how far we can go with it, if we can go far at all. And maybe we're still in the sort of so-called waiting area, the foyer or whatever, to this whole cosmic career thing. But then there's some people who seem to sort of skip past that for whatever reason, through like talent or connections or both, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not like it's not like the door is the same for everybody, and it's not like everybody has to be perfect when they go in, right? It's like you sort of fall into it when you can somehow. I mean, I've nightmared over this for like for 15 years almost now, right? Where it's like, especially when it comes to sitting in front of LinkedIn, or you sit, it's like how do you start to communicate I mean, I'm sure everybody who's looking for like work feels the same way, especially nowadays when you have like the information superhighway at your fingertips, where it's like what words can you use to score somebody's attention? And it's this weird thing where it almost seems like it's too easy at times for some people and impossible, like almost impossible for other people. It's this really awful schism that I found anyway. I don't know about you, but maybe like you're the kind of person who I felt would play it more by just following what you said, like getting an agent, I suppose, and just finding your way into it through that way. Whereas me, honestly, I as I've come to know myself over the past, I guess, decade and a half since SVA, right? It's been more like, okay, I'm gonna just, color outside the lines for a little while, and you see and then of course it's a hot mess, right? Like everything else. But at the same time, it teaches you a little bit. It taught me a little bit about form and discipline that I wouldn't appreciate if I stayed to that, Yeah. If I stayed within the forms and stayed within the lines, as it were. But
well, to kind of just reply quick to the, your reply, I didn't really know what to do after school. I think that the whole thing about just trying to do something, that was the idea. Right. I mean, and I also was working for a company that was in transition of just being a representation company for talent. And they had just started, in a small way, helping to produce films. And I was working as an assistant for an agent there who was producing his first project. And in a small way, it actually leads to one of the more sadder stories I have about the job, because I met a director, an actress director, and I think it was a week or two later, she was found dead.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you know who Adrienne Shelley is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was her?
Yeah, because the company was involved in the movie Waitress.
No way! I didn't know
Yeah.
this.
So I had to go drop off materials at her apartment. I guess the same apartment where the worker in the building killed her.
Whoa!
Yeah.
It was a murder too. I didn't follow up on this at all.
It was a murder.
Whoa.
That's a different story. That has nothing.
No, I didn't mean to be disrespectful by being astonished by this, but I honestly, guys, I really didn't know that you had such a that you were related to this in some orbit somehow.
Very buried.
Yeah, but no way, I didn't know this.
Yeah. So yeah. Hey.
No shit.
Almost could have gotten a screen credit for that, huh?
No,
on
see,
IMDb.
we're gonna
assistant to yeah.
I'm gonna offer the caveat to the people listening right now, Shawn. That Shawn was worked in funeral sciences, so maybe he's permitted to get away with jokes like that.
Yeah. To get back to it though,
yes.
One of the things I really was kind of hoping was going to happen was that this guy, I keep kind of doubling back on what his name was. I think it was Dan. I think his name was Dan. Dan and we were. I was working for him. He was doing this whole project about doing a snowboarding show, and I told him a couple of lies about some things I might be able to help him out with.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so anyway, I was doing a little work for him. He was out at Sundance doing this whole thing. Yeah. He came back from Sundance, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, what happened was the owner of the company and him got into a fight, and he just left.
Huh.
And the owner said to me, he goes, well, since Dan's not here anymore, you don't have a job.
Holy shit,
that's
it, huh?
I can probably keep you around for another week, but I don't have any work for you.
Just like that.
Yeah, it's like
just
you'd probably
that.
just be answering the phone. And I was
just like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And for a short time after that, I actually did find another job until I found out that they were a startup, media company that had no money.
And that's how it usually goes.
Yeah, I showed up there. They were like, these guys were younger than me, which at the time I might have been about 27-ish. These guys were younger than me, and I said to a friend of mine, I'm like, yeah, there's blah, 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 this company, because he also worked in advertising. And he says, I've never heard of them before. He says, are you sure that they're, stable? They're around? It's because they might just be, doing something with daddy's money.
Right.
Yeah, that was probably what did happen. So
Sure.
And that was the last time that I tried getting a job in the entertainment industry. Because
then after that, didn't you focus on? You still did it in a way because you worked in a theater for a while. You managed the movie theater, the movie theater. Well, I mean, it sounds humorous and
that was because I needed health insurance.
Yeah, I mean, why do anybody else take jobs like this, really? But it's but still, I mean, I don't even have that on my resume where it's okay, I could have gone to a movie theater and probably applied there, but it didn't click. For some reason, it's just I thought about it, but I'm yeah, that's not. But I feel like working in a theater though gives you more of a boots on the ground kind of perspective on when we were we didn't we didn't talk about this in a recording we did. Did we? No. I'm sorry. You talked about this in your podcast with when it was opening. Was it opening weekend for the Avengers? Was it?
Yes.
And you and somebody knocked you flat on your back in your back gave out. Was it?
Well, what happened was he was coming through the tunnel, to leave the theater to go out to the hall. Mm-hmm. And I was leaving, and he came through the doors, and basically shoved me. But he shoved me with such force, I actually came off my feet and hit the wall.
That's incredible. Yeah.
And I hit the wall, and then I landed on the ground. And then a couple of people walked past me as I'm lying on the ground. So,
humanity at its best.
Exactly.
On the way to see the Avengers of all things.
Yeah. That was, I had a very bad I had a very bad experience working in the movie theater because I'm kind of known as somebody who has a long fuse and a short temper.
Really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. You know what? I think we might have that in common, actually. Yeah. Even though my fuse, my wick, as it were, is getting shorter and shorter and shorter with age. So. Yeah.
The little side thing to this. I remember there was like a problem with one of the shows. I don't even know if there was a problem. What happened was I might give people like, readmission tickets, that type of thing. Sure. And this one guy just kept complaining to me that I wasn't doing enough for him. And I said to him, I was like, this is what, we're inviting you back. And he's just like, no. He's like, I want you to give me this, and I want you to give me a refund for that. And
holy crap. He was really asking for it, huh?
And I said to him, I was like, hey, everybody, this guy right here, thanks to him, I'm not giving anybody anything.
Oh!
And everybody started like yelling at the guy. And it was really interesting because I kind of turned my back around them. So I got around the guy. Yeah. And then I look at all the people and I'm like, I kind of give them a look like, just meet me over at the customer service desk.
Look at you. Man, oh man.
Like I was going to help everybody else out except for him.
Yeah. Did that work though? Like, did that diffuse the situation enough so that you?
Yeah, I mean, it's very immature though.
Still, I mean, you know what? Yeah, but at the same time, though, I mean, the way you described, the way I imagined it, just helped just redirect the focus, as it were, from you to this other guy. Yeah. So you handle the crowd, as it were.
I mean, I had a customer punch me. That was interesting.
You're like Werner Herzog. It's not this, like when he got shot. It is not important. Yeah. It is not important.
Yeah, I got it. I don't know if I ever shared. Did I ever share you my Benjamin Button story?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So I didn't work at the movie theater the day Benjamin Button came out. I think I might have been visiting my mother. So the day after, so this is the 26th of December, 2008, I had heard about the horror show of how they didn't, because it was a 12-screen movie theater, they didn't format the screenings so that they would have, they would have long lines over on this side of the theater. And then the next showing, long lines on this side of the theater. Instead of, it was like long lines on both sides of the theater. Because it was, you go through the front and then the two theaters split and they go either way.
Sure.
So you stagger the show times on different sides so you don't have, the halls in are just filled with people. Mm-hmm. Causing, a fire hazard. But anyway, so Benjamin Button was actually a big hit at our theater. It's 26th of December, and I had this woman come up to me in the hallway, and she goes, "I can't find my movie."
Oh, my baby.
And I'm like, "Oh, where are you going to see?" She goes, "I was seeing the Brad Pitt movie, the Button movie." And I said, "What do you know what showtime you were in or what theater? She goes, I don't know, the Button movie. You're probably getting an idea of how old this woman might be, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, were you at the beginning? Was it like the middle? You know, like I'm trying to figure this out. And she goes,
Right. Powers of
I don't
recognition.
know. It had Brad Pitt in it. So I was like, was it a big theater? She goes, I think it was pretty big. So I go to one of the big theaters.
Yeah.
I walk in with her. And it's this point of the movie, which is actually like almost close to the end.
Right.
And she goes, is this the Button movie? And she's yelling at the top of her lungs. I don't see Brad Pitt. Is Brad Pitt in this movie? And I hear this guy just go, lady, shut the fuck up. And I slowly backed out of the movie theater, out the door, and ran down the hall. As I then said to one of my colleagues, the such and such showing is probably going to come out with people complaining.
I thought that was going to end with, and that's how I left my job.
Yeah.
You just had a moment of clarity.
I mean, I was bad. I used to tell people to shut up all the time. It was...
this is a side of you I don't know about.
Yeah, no.
Your workaday side.
I used to be such a nice guy. I don't know what happened.
You get warm. Well, well, you know what? To bring this back a little bit. But you know what? Let me ask you though. I mean, from working from that experience, is there anything? Imagine yourself being working on some higher level stuff in the entertainment industry, right? Is there anything that you could take some like real insight from when you were working at a movie theater and applying it to this hypothetical position that you might have, regardless if it was a screenwriting strictly or even directing or even like producing? Like, is there anything from that experience that you can say for sure, like, okay, you know what, I'll know that this will play out better, like if we do this or if we do that. Not even like in terms of like, you know, making a film as it were, but on maybe trying to, when you thinking about, you know, releasing something in some way, when you release a film or would that help? Would that experience influence any strategy that you might have? Hypothetically.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, I had once heard that if you get into reading, like being like a script reader,
Yeah.
you never get back into writing scripts because it's all you do is read, just reading and reading and reading and reading. So I think the idea was that if I was at the theater and I just kept seeing the movies, would
You
this
want to
just,
do anything?
yeah, would this become like a vicious cycle of me just? And the thing is, you don't actually watch movies all the time. You might stay, or you might come on your day off to see one, or maybe you're seeing a piece of this and a piece of that.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm probably going to vote for it being a little more negative than it was positive.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of something. So during my SV experience, because I used to want to be strictly screenwriter, I wanted to go to school because I wanted to be exposed with, I guess the equipment, but with a certain peer group that maybe, will, help encourage each other and have, as corny as this sounds, like, long-lasting friendships. Thankfully, you and I have that so far, right? And when I think this was beginning a second year where I felt like, okay, I just can't do screenwriting. I have to do other things, right? Maybe overextending myself in hindsight was a bad thing, but I was taking a directing class. I fell in with a group of, of directors our graduating year. And from there, I kind of like networked amongst them. And I started off like just really kind of like basic, just PA kind of stuff, production assistant kind of stuff, right? Which didn't bother me because it's like, you know what, you have to start somewhere, right? And I remember just going to some place in Harlem, getting on my cell phone and just calling places for this one shoot costume places to get quotes or to see if there's any possible place we could rent a policeman's uniform. Which at the time, I don't know if you can still do that now, but at the time you can't do it. Like you'll get like a variation of it, right? But because of law or whatever it was at the time, they wouldn't let you do it. So that was something I found out. But anyway, yada yada yada. One of the things I found out from that experience and networking and doing other side projects amongst our peer group, as it were, was once I moved up a little bit and then I got into doing script supervising. When you fall into a niche, right? Unless you can actively demonstrate in the presence of people that you're just not that niche thing, they'll keep you there. They will think that you're a script supervisor for over and over again until you say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do something else. And this was confirmed, funny enough, a year or two ago. When I had gone to a conference in New York, this was in the Javits Center. It was the Audio Engineering Society was on one side of the Javits Center. And then I think the other side was the National Association of Broadcasters. Okay. Was it that conference? No, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. It wasn't those conferences at all. It was Photo Expo. And this was maybe a few weeks later. Like this was like in October or September 2019, something like this before COVID started. And Photo Expo, they had, it wasn't strictly just for photography. It was also for, any kind of like cine gear as well. And there was a guy there who did video work. And he was giving a lecture there. So I was just, amongst the crowd. So I was listening to him. And sure enough, I can't remember this guy's name, but he said basically, he's like, hey, listen, unless you go out of your way to, unless you're proactive to look for other things, other positions in the industry, as it were, you will get pigeonholed so fast. Like really, if you're the one guy who does, you'll get work, right? And you'll build connections. So I guess that's the positive. But if you're like the boom guy, for one thing, don't expect to come by, unless you're in like school or whatever. Don't expect to come back to say you're going to be like, the picture editor on the next project. You're going to come back as the boom guy. Unless, the sound recordist gets sick on set, and then you're like, okay, the producer goes, or the director goes, does anybody he'll ask, okay, you're the boom guy. Do you know how to do sound recording? Well, unless you have a yes to that, then that's when you'll have another occupation, another like role. But aside from that, it's like, okay, typecast. So that's in a weird way. That's why I had to sort of walk away from, because at senior year in 2006, when it was our senior year, we had to do our master's thesis and all this. For our BFAs, I was also being that for a number of thesis films. I was the script supervisor for a number of thesis films, and by the end of that year, I could have gone on. I could have just I'm not to say like I could have been a contender. That's not where I'm going with this. It's more like you would have to say no. Because it was like it just becomes like I don't want to become this. I'm more than just the script super. Because have you ever done script supervision work, Shawn? Like have you broken it down?
No.
It's just continuity. Yeah. It's like whenever I see the Sergio Leone or any spaghetti westerns, you'll see or any movies from like Europe from like the 1950s, 60s in the opening title sequences, you'll always see like I think it's the same thing, script girl. I was the script girl, right? Where it's like this continuity. It's making sure, really. It was just making sure that the props were the same. It's like continuity between shots, and it involved meticulous note taking. So when I should have been writing, I was breaking down these scripts and making prop lists and breaking down scenes and making sure, and then I had found a template to present to editors. So at the end of each production, when everything was being streamlined to post-production, I would put together a binder of all these notes that I would take, each shot that we would do per scene. I would time it with a stopwatch, and that would be my role on set. This was like for a few productions. So my weekends would be just consumed by this kind of stuff, you see.
Yeah.
And then by the time it was our senior, at the end of our senior year, or I did one more project for these for it was just one more production that we had to do. It was like a reshoot or something. And then I said to myself, I'm like, I just can't keep doing this. I know this is sort of my in, as it were, right? Because these people would later on be connected with college humor and, you know, the outer periphery, I guess, of comedy, because some people in college humor went to SNL. So that would have been like, you know, vertical or lateral movement that way. But at the same time, it's like, how much can you take? Maybe I have an innate sense of saying no when I should say yes.
I have that problem too. You can't send me somewhere where it's like, find out what their deal is, and then what you're going to do is you're going to check out some other place and find out what their deal is. And it'd be like, yeah, I went to the first place and agreed.
That's funny. Well, I mean, yeah, but it's one of those things that, you know, when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, am I such a schmuck that I didn't stick with it? I'd like to say no, because I mean, my life so far has turned out pretty okay so far. But the career thing is this albatross. It's just, how do you figure this out, right? And I think you're similar, where it's like our sort of go-to answer to this is just do the work. Just do the work, and you struggle with it, and you don't want to make others struggle with you, but sadly that may happen, and you feel like, okay, how do I even get to the next level? Because you know what? I mean, ironically, when I watch the Criterion Channel lately, and I haven't really sat around to watch it, but I'll see these features that are by these people I've never heard of before, right? Especially like in the 90s and the 80s, and they're like this forgotten gem, or this person like didn't get any airplay. Like I remember, what was it? The one example I get that I can think of off the top of my head is was it Charles Burnett, To Sleep with Anger? Okay. Yeah. Never heard of him before. Yeah. Never heard of him before. He's still around, obviously, right? So To Sleep with Anger, an amazing movie. I don't know if you got around to seeing it, but it's fantastic. And I never heard of it. And Danny Glover's in it. And, yeah, exactly. He's the devil. No spoilers, practically, right? Basically, no spoilers. But I loved it, and I'm like, oh, this is like when I found it when it came out on disc, I bought it like really fast. I was like, this is a fantastic movie. This is the best thing about having Criterion Channel, because when you watch this, you're like, oh my god, this is fantastic. I have to go get it. I never heard of him. Never heard of Charles Burnett, right? So, amongst many others that they feature on the channel, I'm not trying to plug Criterion Channel, but they're awfully good at this, I have to say. And I wonder, like, how many of these people, like, even Stan Brakhage, right, with his experimental, like, will literally paint the film kind of stuff. Yeah. How like is it sort of your destiny where if you're serious about the craft of this work, maybe even too serious or like too passionate or whatever, is there a roadblock that happens, as it were, like a metaphysical roadblock that happens, where it's like, okay, then you're doomed to suffer. You're doomed to suffer in obscurity, I suppose, and then maybe sometime, maybe the universe will turn its eye back on you eventually, assuming you do the work, assuming you do good work anyway, I guess. That's what troubles me, because it's like that's like you don't want to do. What's the point of that? I guess.
Well, here's the thing about it. I think that there was a period of my life that I was going really hard at trying to say, oh, let's see if I can become a professional in some way. Mm. Then I got involved personally with some bad person.
Oh, no.
And it kind of like really stalled what I was trying to do. And then what happened was I never really kind of jumped back on that train. But I think that there's always been a certain desire to want to do something.
Right.
Now, I guess, it's one of those things where you write what you know. So one day I was telling my wife, I'm like, I have this idea for a story I want to do. And it's about a guy who's really good at doing something, but he can't do it. So he does something else instead. But the thing is, one day he's probably just going to have to figure out, like, oh, even though I'm really good at this, I can't continue doing this for the betterment of,
wow,
And the weird thing about it was the story changed because originally it was about me saying that I was really good at screenwriting. Whether or not I was, is kind of beside the point. But let's just make believe, yes. And I had gone to school and gotten my funeral director's license and became a full-time funeral director. So then the idea was, oh, well, I was good at this one thing, but to keep that special, I'm going to like leave that as my passion.
Right.
But this is going to be my job. You know, being a funeral director is going to be my job. And I equated to, I was talking to my brother-in-law, who was a vet. I said, when I decided to leave funeral service recently, I said, I was really good at what I did. Again, I don't know, it's like I get good at things that I try.
You're right, me too.
And I said to him, I was like, like right now I'm not working, but I'm going to have to go back to work eventually.
Right.
I said, I can't go back to doing funeral service, though. I have personal reasons for that. I don't know if I've gotten into that with you.
No. I don't believe so.
Yeah. It's that can be maybe discussed. I don't want to get morbid about it.
No, we don't have to go into this now.
I might talk about that on my side thing, so it doesn't doesn't sound too self-indulgent on this thing that we do.
No, that's all right.
But I said, I'm going to have to get a job at some point, and I can't go back to being a funeral director. I said, but I was actually quite good at being like an embalmer. I said, it's like I became a sniper. And
Holy
I was
shit.
really good at being a sniper. And now I have to go home to my wife and my kids, and I can't be a sniper at home. Not unless, I go and work for some organization.
Right.
But also, I can't be a sniper because that's the reason I stopped working. If something happened to me and I can't be a sniper.
Holy shit.
So that story that I was originally writing has now it's gone almost twofold.
Yeah, really.
So that was one of the reasons why it was so therapeutic for me to do, and go we know not where, being about like, life and death and what happens with that. And really the passion is still being the writer, being the creator, being an artist, doing that stuff. The passion was never being a funeral director or being an embalmer.
No.
I just happened to have gotten good at it.
Yeah, but doesn't that teach you? Because I went through something similar working where I work now. Granted, I'm not an embalmer. I do something way more. I hazard to say. I don't know if mundane is the word because we don't think of embalmers as somebody. It's like a day-to-day thing, but life is what life is or not. But similarly, I went through something where I just needed work basically. So I needed to find just to make money and to have health insurance and just to supplement our income, of course, right? And I ended up where I ended up at Amazon, and I got good at it, where each time it felt like I almost had to fight off threats to promotion because they want to promote me. And you know what I mean? Where it's like it's not like you don't want to move up, but the thing is, when you do that, your personal life, there's no personal life. It just starts to erode on that. And when you get good at something that you don't think you're going to get good at, basically, I think I've suffered at a level of low self-esteem throughout my life, and it's hard to deal with. What happens is when you,
sorry.
Yeah. So it's okay. When you go through something like that for an extended period of time and you don't know how to, conquer it, as it were. And I think the easiest antidote to that would be if you take something that you've never done before, that you didn't think of yourself of doing, and you do it and you practice it ad nauseum, whether it's involuntarily or voluntarily, and then you get good at it to some degree. And then that's when some sort of hurdle clears and you're like, oh my God, holy shit. I can actually I can actually be good at something, like you said, that I wasn't even remotely expecting to be good at. It does bring a level of confidence and some sort of self-assuredness. But at the same time, life always has opposites. You always think, okay, but is this really what I want to be doing? Right? Especially at this age, where it's incredibly physical work. Do you want to keep doing that? No, of course not. This is like, it's just going to be absurd to do this, right? So now that I've cleared the hurdle, as it were, to some degree of the self-doubt or the low self-esteem kind of stuff, what's next? I mean, now I feel like I want to circle back to what my passion was to begin with. I don't know if I ever told you this, but one of the reasons that I wanted to make movies so badly was because I remember watching it was Schindler's List, and they had aired it on NBC I don't know if it was without any commercials. It was like a very limited commercial interruption. I've never seen it.
I think it was.
So I remember watching it.
Sears or something. It was just like brought to you by Sears.
Sears, something like that. Yeah. And I just remember watching it, and I was going to bed, and it was some sort of like epiphany moment where it's like, oh my God, I want to do this. This is something there haven't been many times in my life where something that came with such clarity in my mind. It was just like, I can do this. You just felt like you see all like, you might not grasp all the puzzle pieces, but you feel like it's doable, right? And I think I got sidetracked, ironically, because it just came at a moment of tremendous self-doubt for me, when it was like not just, it was like leading up to like, school being over, and I couldn't wait for school to be over. That was just something that was just like, I can't wait for that to be done. And then when it was over and I had focused on Burnt Up, and I was also focusing on other things, and it didn't help at the time that, this girl that I was just helplessly in love with, and, the affection wasn't returned. I just felt like it was a hot mess. But anyway, I mean, to boil it down, it's like, okay, post-college experience, right? I mean, yeah, SVA will, I guess any film school will teach you, like, to sum it up, we'll teach you, like, we'll give you the basics of the craft. You don't even have to go to film school for this. I mean, you can just, learn on your own, basically. If you have a camera on your phone, you can just, derive the basics from there, and then using the editing software, again, maybe on your phone, you can do that there too. But you learn the basics of that, but then you start learning more techniques. But then after that, it's like learning your trade, right? Because I don't know if I got that recorded. It's like, okay, you can learn your craft, but then you have to learn your trade, which is, I think, to sort of say is what we're stuck on, because what we should do is just, and this is how we segued into the expo stuff, is like, okay, should we go to these expos and start networking and getting to know people who also kind of like, learning, right? That's not bad. It's not a bad thing. Well, maybe it is sometimes, because you don't know what kind of characters you'll meet, as Shawn so put it earlier. Well, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean that's true. One of the things I was excited about with Story Expo was learning more of that trade.
Me too.
I didn't, at the time I was still, let's see, because when we spoke about it, I think might have been in January of 2020, prior to the fall of the world. You were sitting in my kitchen.
Yeah, I was in your kitchen.
That was when.
That's right.
I told you about what I wanted to do, and you were able to, I guess, in a way, almost slap the ass of the baby that got birth of that, the non-narrative project, because I was like,
slap that ass.
I don't know how to do this. What do I do? Do I have to get Final Cut? you know, and you show.
And I'm like, fuck no.
Why don't you just try it with iMovie? And it worked out fine.
And I completely forgot about the iMovie thing. I thought you did it all on Final Cut. See, this is how good Shawn edited this movie, right? Because I saw this thing. It's called "And Go We Know Not Where." I included the link in our previous episode, and I'll probably include it in this one too. "And Go We Know Not Where," and it was beautiful. It's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, I think I might revisit that because I think I always kind of knew that I would maybe to tighten
the audio
up a little bit.
You said?
Even some of the journey of it, I might revisit to see if there's something a little more to. I got a very interesting piece of criticism from my stepfather when he watched it.
Oh, interesting.
Which, you know, I like I said, I appreciate everybody's opinion and their criticism. It doesn't mean that I'm going to change everything based on what you say to me. Because I think that's what's important. Listen to what people say. Find what is important and what speaks to you. Because somebody says to you, change that, doesn't mean you change it. Mm-hmm. What it means is you revisit it and go, how does this make me feel? And that was my idea. And right. Story X, by the way. So we had been talking about, and I was like, I wanted to get back into doing something to make me feel like I was getting the creativity back. Which I don't know if you know, like my wife Anne, she's been doing some animation lately.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, but that's great.
Yeah. So it's good for her. We're both kind of doing something a little more to release some of these energies. Yeah,
absolutely, you should.
Yeah. We're going to be doing a collaboration with my 6-year-old daughter who writes stories. And she doesn't write stories with words. She writes them with pictures, like she's doing a graphic novel.
Nice.
And she's 6. Anyway, let me get back.
Gotta start sometime.
Yeah. So I was very excited about Story Expo because I thought to myself, well, it's not so much about the writing as much as it is about the taking care of what you do with it.
Yeah.
Because you can be happy with writing and it makes you, it can be a hobby. It can be your livelihood. It can be just something you do in your spare time. But if you want to do something with your art or your craft to have people see it and appreciate it, and maybe they, poo-poo it and go, this guy doesn't have any talent. Hey, that's an entirely different thing.
It is, yeah.
One of the things that really pissed me off is the film that we did. When I sent it to the Staten Island Film Festival, and they rejected it because it was too long, and it was within their time.
Yeah,
which I really was like, that's fucked up, man.
And they probably didn't finish watching. Yeah. They're like, it's too long. Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe I just need to make it shorter.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell me how long it could be that they were just not going to throw it out.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to I wanted to sit in a room and have somebody watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
That was about it.
Yeah. Same here. We've talked about that. I think it was into the first, not to say we can't talk about it again, of course, but we talked about it in the first episode, I remember, about our burnt up hopes and aspirations. You know what? Speaking with you as often as we have been, it's really great. And it's made me realize how alike we are in many ways. I didn't anticipate that. I thought, it's not that, of course, we're, two different people. It's not like you're playing me and I'm playing you. but I'm surprised that we've had similar, I guess, in hindsight, like sort of like these bumps in the road when it comes to our respective career paths, right? We've sort of been like, sidelined in similar ways and returned to it in similar fashions. And I remember sitting in your kitchen that last year, and you talking to me about and go. We were talking about and go. We know not where, and we go. Wait, was it and go? We know not where, right?
And go.
We know not where. And you had mentioned again. This is not we don't do this to shit on people, but I think we should talk about this kind of stuff to sort of be indicative of what kind of roadblocks when you want to do a project and you want to, and more importantly, when you want to share the idea of the project with other people, stuff like this, what I'm about to say happens. Because remember, you told me, that sounds way too accusatory. I don't mean it to sound accusatory, but you told me that you had shared this you had shared the idea of And Go We Know Not Where with like a professional editor friend of yours, was it?
Not so much a professional editor, but somebody of equal interest who I felt would probably be respectful of something so personal to me.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Do you remember what his one-word response to me was?
If I remember correctly, didn't he say why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Yeah. Yeah. That's why I was going to go with this. It's like, why would you do that?
It's my why.
Yeah. Got it back.
See, but that's the whole thing. Is that there's an interesting story even about that whole relationship there. But this was something that I felt I needed to do, and that was my why. And in my head, I was like, wow, that was like, I don't know, that was just it felt very insensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, I could have been like, it could have been like me saying like, oh, I'm just going to donate all my money to, animal rescue. And be like, why?
Right.
I'm like, because I want to do it. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I remember when you said that, when you shared that story with me, I was like, oof. I felt bad hearing it, and I felt sad hearing it, because it's like you don't want to experience something like that. I don't tend to broadcast what I'm doing and what I'm working on, kind of sorta, unless it's like for episodes like this, because it's like I get honestly I get way too sensitive to that kind of stuff when it's like. When it becomes a bit too critical, and when people say like why or no like immediately, it's just one more obstacle. Like I'm already a sensitive person. I'm already insecure enough as it is. I don't need you doing that. Don't give me one. Don't give me one more obstacle I have to now sort of succumb within this universe to succumb in this universe to get past or traverse, right? It's like there's already enough that I have to worry about in order to develop this thing. And then everybody can have their opinion about anything, of course, right? But at the same time, it's like, you have to play it back a little bit. It's like that quote, I think it's this quote attributed to Einstein, is like, when you have a great idea, don't tell anybody about it. Just sort of keep it. Have you heard this one? Have you sort of keep it in your back pocket, and you just don't tell anybody about it? You sort of work on it, patent it, Einstein, or just get enough of it protected, as it were, because eventually you're going to have to release it out to the world if it's really a great idea, right? It's got to go through that stress test of life, and then it's like, okay, if it's a great idea, great, It'll march on its own, but until then, it's such a sensitive thing to just develop, which actually brings me back to something you said before we started recording tonight, because you said you wanted to talk about was it having the gumption to work in this field, or in, like, when you think you're creative and you want to do it, or didn't you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, because it was it had to do with I think it was the two questions, because I attribute it to rediscovering your
Yes.
smile, your things that
Yes.
And it was, why do you care? And I think, why is it that you care to do it? It goes back to the great piece of criticism that from the classroom. I don't care, make me care. Which anyway. So why is it that you, as the person who is telling the story, painting the picture, making the film, why is it that you care to do it? Or are you just doing it, it's almost like needlepoint to pass time? For me, it's not needlepoint. I've often, I have said that the last project I did was a therapeutic thing for me. It was a little bit of an exercise for me to kind of relearn piecing things together. Hopefully this next step will be something a little more challenging for me. Already kind of feels that way. But I mean, I guess I could turn that onto you. When it comes to something you want to do, I mean, do you need to care?
Yeah. My God, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, a million. Yeah, well, no. Well, yeah. And I think over time is if you're serious enough about this kind of stuff, not only do you have to care, but you really have to sustain that care, as it were, to the end of the process, because that's when it becomes really challenging. Because then it's going to go a million ways. It's like that. Didn't you record like an experimental podcast called Seven Ways from Sunday or something like that?
What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to add that into. I never actually posted it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add that into the last podcast I did, which still hasn't been posted because.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh my God, it's a train wreck.
Sean's gonna burn bridges.
No. I sound awful.
Really?
Yeah, like from a technical standpoint, I sound like
Okay.
I'm not marble mouthed, but I think I'm like
Fat Albert.
I mean, okay, just to let you know, like, I was going to start every one of my podcasts off with a little bit of a joke about what we're about to say.
Sure.
And, it was like, it starts off, I mean, you'll hear it anyway, but it goes like this. It goes, hi, he's like, hey, this is, Confessions of a Method Writer. I'm Shawn Nolan, and now you get to hear about all my thoughts on gay marriage. And then it has nothing to do with that at all.
Nothing to do with gay marriage. Yeah. Well played, sir.
Except
well played.
I think it sounds more like this. Hey, everybody, this is Shawn Nolan. This is Confessions of a Method Writer, and you get to hear my thoughts on gay marriage. And I was like, oh my God, I sound so tired.
Recording is like, what time did you record? Like 2:30 in the morning? Like you had like a bit of whiskey in your life?
It wasn't super late, but I think it was because I was sitting on the couch and I had a movie on and I was just so relaxed.
Wow. Confessions of a Lazy Writer.
Exactly, yeah. Well, because originally my podcast was going to be me doing doing commentary on the movie Predator, but like only talking about Predator a little bit at a time while also talking about other things. I'm gonna piece some things together. It's not gonna be very long. But it just sounds so bad.
Please release it. At the end of my last one of the last back on the track that I did, I just put in like my tests.
I heard that.
Very model of a modern Major General.
The Pirates of Penzance.
No. Yeah, exactly. So, Anyway,
like I was going to start this podcast off by saying, you're like, oh, with Shawn Nolan, instead of me going, hey, how you doing? I was going to be like, hi, and this is a podcaster. We're going to talk about all the women I've slept with.
Oh, that's the beginning of the next one.
Yeah. The joke was going to be, I was also going to have like Anne here. It's just going to be like, why am I here? Why do you want me to talk about
like I need to take care of our daughters. Well, anyway, I mean, what the hell was I talking about? I was like, we went off on this tangent about the Some Ways to Sunday.
Do you care? And,
why do you care? Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, yeah, especially when the project progresses and it needs to be done. Like I had to learn to want to finish things, right? It's like it's you can start something, right, and you can dawdle on it, and then you can just forget about it. But the thing is, when you intend to finish something, it demands more of you than you would have otherwise given it if you just wanted to start it and you sort of just abandon it,
yeah.
Right? Because then it becomes real, and it's like, oh my god, this isn't as cut and well. In my experience, it's not as cut and dry as like, okay, just point A, point B, point C. It's more like, okay, point A, point B. How do we get it to point Z? And it becomes much more of a endurance test and a test on your skill and your limits too. It's like, okay, how much of this delicate egg can you isolate from the world before what's inside hatches, right? And you have to provide that nest, as it were, and then making sure that no calamities befall it, right? That you don't get too even if life passes by a little bit and you return to the project, and then you think about what it was. The evolution might still happen where it's like, okay, it's not this anymore. Like you were talking about the project you were talking about earlier about having it be somebody who's really good at something, but not be able to do it, so he has to do something else. But then he doesn't want to be that person anymore, even though he's really good at that. As an example, yeah. I mean, it's just it's just the commitment level, right? I would posit to you where it's like the guy said to you, like, how many years ago, it's like, if you can't do an elevator pitch and you can't do this, that, and the other, then you're not a writer. Well, I mean, to go back to the artist thing we talked about in the first episode of this show that we got, this thing of ours, our Cosa Nostra. I'm watching The Sopranos. Then, right? Well, I mean, if you're an artist and you can't see through with what you have in mind, and I guess what you have in mind, what comes to you as in the process happens, then how is it that, like, how do you call yourself an artist, as it were, if you just can't be committed to those ideas? They may not be yours. It's just these things just float into your head, and it's like, okay, I'm just the conduit, really. It's like, okay, it's just me. I'm the acting agent, of whatever this idea is, and putting it out there. I just happen to be the representative in this, this material plane that is of these ideas. And if people have somebody to blame, they can blame me about it. But the thing is, it's as if, I'm only the representative. It's just that who said this? It was a really good quote too about, was it Norman Mailer? I forget who this was. I think it was Norman Mailer, actually, who said, like, listen, if you want to be a writer, you stay committed. Like, you make sure that you make a date with yourself you write from this time, you write from this time to this time, and then once you miss that time, you'd be like, shit, I wasn't there for it. I started taking that advice. I'm guessing it's a Norman Mailer quote. And wouldn't you know it? I mean, for me personally, that actually worked. It was just, first I started with the Stephen King method, which is like, just, you just write, you don't criticize yourself, you just sort of get everything out, right? You leave the door open. You write. I think it's called writing with the door open.
Yeah, well, I think he was like the 9 to 5 writer.
Exactly. Well, I didn't. Yeah. It wasn't right now. There were days where I did that, but I mean, come on, yeah. It's not like. Well, but
I mean, Stephen King's also kind of a different cat because he. Apocryphal story. I didn't hear this that he said this, but somebody said, if Stephen ever has a block. Says it doesn't happen a lot, but because of where he lives, what he does is he rides his bicycle down to town, and we'll go and just, he'll go hang out in the like the general store, and just start like helping put shit on the shelf, just to kind of get away from it a little bit. He says, and it gets to the point. It's like that day might be done. It's like tomorrow is going to be a writing day. And when the clock gets hit, you're punching the clock. Is like it's a way of kind of clearing yourself out. You got to treat it like it's a job.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a true story. It sounds really funny though, and I like that.
Well, it sort of jives with something I heard him say personally on it was a Q&A session for whatever book he was releasing at the time, one of the hundreds, and which incidentally, did you ever see that clip of him and George R.R. Martin, like they were like doing like a Q&A session together, like an interview session together? I think it was like the University of Colorado or something, and George R.R. Martin just says, I think he just said this, like, how the fuck do you write so many books? Anyway, the Q&A session that I heard Stephen King, like someone asked him, like, do you really write for like, God knows how many hours a day? Do you write for like 10 hours a day? And he goes, like, my God, no, I'd shoot myself. Like, I just can't do that for extended periods of time. Yeah. I mean, of course, when you're younger and you're impressionable like me, it's like, okay, you know what? I'll give it a try. And I even got to a point with it where it's like, first I was like, I did hardcore, Shawn. What I did was at first at my desk, this was like around before like when SVA was wrapping up, I would no lie, I would take my scarf, like I would be in front of the laptop or computer or whatever, and I would put my scarf around my eyes and I would just type whatever. It was like stream of consciousness kind of typing. See, you mock me, but I'm telling you, it's like, it helps.
Me. See, there was a period. See, when we were at SVA. See, this came after a certain period of my life where I was like, oh, I wanted to get into writing. So I had a typewriter, which coincidentally for my wedding, Juan got me a typewriter.
That was a fun story in of itself.
Yeah, which is a very cherished thing that I have. Yeah, I actually will write on it sometimes. I'm afraid to like put a new ribbon in it.
You can though. Yeah. You can. You can use it. You can use it. Yeah.
But I just got to keep it away from Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I know that reference. Yes.
So, but I had a typewriter, but I didn't even have a typewriter. I had like the electric typewriter word processor thing. And this is like, I think I might have been 19 or 20 at the time when I got this. And I would spend my a little background on it. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and my family's from Long Island. And we had family in Long Island and in Connecticut, so oftentimes my family used to go and visit family in Long Island and Connecticut. But I would stay home because I was like 19 and I had a job. So, Saturday, like Friday or Saturday nights, I'd be home. Hopefully I wasn't working. And it was like, I'm going to put on, a movie, which would usually be, I don't even know if I had Vertigo at that time. I'm trying to think of what I used to put on. Might have been my VH copy of Alien that I taped off of Channel 11.
I think I taped my copy of Alien off of a Sci-Fi Channel way back with Tom Skerritt. It was like the Letterbox version. Yeah. Tom Skerritt was hosting it.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would have my typewriter. This is getting long, and then I also would be drinking.
Sure.
And
you're the original man of letters.
This was before I was like getting into doing script writing. First screenplay I ever wrote, I was in high school. And
same here.
Have we ever spoken about that one?
I believe so. I think we were at Lyric Diner talking about it.
Was it called? Lyric Diner.
Lyric Diner.
I've been trying to figure out the name.
That's
of the
right. You mentioned that you were. That's right. I totally Didn't you? And when you're in your podcast last time, you mentioned that diner, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because you forgot the name of that diner. I don't think it's Lyric anymore. I think it's something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it. Lyric Diner. But wasn't it like some crazy like kind of like America stuff? That's what he's going to remember.
It was okay. So it was American spelt backwards, which I don't know. Not
Yeah. That's what I remember. That's
always pronouncing it like I'm trying to sound smart.
very occult.
Nasserama.
Well, you did it. You did it at the time.
Yeah. That's not a story right now, but anyway.
Nope.
Wow.
It's for later.
So the stuff I used to write was very stream of consciousness.
Yep.
But there was always like some kind of narrative thing going on. And it was like, I remember reading it to a young lady that I was trying to be very, impress her with my writing.
Woo her.
Yeah.
No.
You want to find a way to not impress like a 20-year-old. It's to pull out the pages that you typed and be like, this is the stuff.
Hey, baby.
Like, I'm
Come
tapping
over here.
into it. It's right here.
Tapping something.
And
Tapping that.
yeah, it was that was some weird times for me. It was around the same time that I realized that the Neverending Story was The Matrix. Really, it was like
Really, yeah,
it's
it was.
Bastion's watching Atreyu, and we're watching Bastion,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
all a part of the Neverending Story. Oh my God!
I read somewhere that have you read the book that's based on?
No.
I should check. Yeah, I read somewhere like, hey, people should read that book
I know that
because it's just like occult shit.
I know that Bastion becomes like a power-hungry individual.
Does it really?
Yeah, at some
Wow,
point.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was showing parts of the Neverending Story to my daughter, and she was just like, "Is that a giant dog?" And I'm like, "He's a luck dragon." Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Falcor.
So that's Falcor, and you know what? But going back to the whole blindfold stream of consciousness thing, I did that for a while, and then I would deliberately type without like any punctuation, so it'd just be like the words. Da, 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 da. Did you do that as well?
Hey, you're an artist, you know?
I'm an artiste, which you know what? That leads me. Remember, I'd said I had this quote from Elia Kazan, and about this, about having the audacity to do this kind of stuff. And I don't have it. Of course, me with quotes. I don't have the quotes in front of me right now, but I can tell you where I got it from. William Friedkin, at the beginning of his book, makes this quote. Like he cites this quote, and it basically goes like, "Hey, if someone calls you like." Pretentious. This is Elia Kazan, right?
Yeah.
Someone calls you, pretentious or arrogant for doing this, that, and the other. You should pretty much just smile and say, "Yes, I suppose I am." Right? Because that's been enough occurring criticism that I've received. It's like you're so arrogant, da 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 about this, that, and the other. I'm like. It's just sort of what happens, really. I mean, you don't mean to come off a certain way. Sometimes it does happen, I guess, regardless. But at the same time, it's like when you do have that kind of audacity to, take things in a certain direction, it's not like it makes you feel alive, as it were. It kind of just makes you feel like, okay, you know what? Now you're brewing up a storm that maybe you need to do. Because who would do it otherwise? And that's not to say you should deliberately rock the boat or something or other, but maybe sometimes you should. If you have like if going back to this whole idea of being like the conduit for the ideas, right? If you're just that, and these ideas are pretty big, then where you have to sort of find the sweet spot between respecting the ideas but also having enough knowledge of the craft, right, to get a sense of how the idea should go, and if how does this fit in the material realm? In other words, right? It's like, okay, these ideas are powerful, right? But what earthly knowledge that I possess would make these ideas, more effective, as it were, right? And presumably, if that's how it should work, if that's just sort of my interpretation of how these things should work, then maybe you should buckle in and just go for the ride, right? Otherwise, I don't know. How, like, where else could you? I'm not saying that this is like, the standard template for like all artists should follow, but I know that doing what I do for this length of time at least, and I think you'd agree, or at least to a point, would be that when you get into the mode, right? When you get into the mood to write, as you said earlier, or the mood to create, and you enter that space, and then the ideas come, and then what you do is you sort of stay true to the ideas. Like, I know I'm sounding like David Lynch, but at the same time, it's like it's not too far removed from what we do anyway, right? Is this that as long as you sort of stick with it, right, and if you're committed, then I don't have to say it's smooth sailing, but the thing is, you're doing it, right? You're doing the work. You're doing the process. It doesn't even feel like work. Sometimes it does, but you're doing the process of what this is. And I think the disconnect happens for us. The suffering happens, the suffering artist bit of it, I guess, right? I don't want to make it sound like melodramatic, but it's like when you're doing the work, you've gotten this far in this sort of initiatory experience, as it were, this whole ritual of it, that you're wondering, okay, how is it that this speaks deeply to me, that the my whys, right? When does it start connecting, if it does at all, with other people? Like, when is the bridge built?
Yeah.
When does that happen? Like, do we have to go through the motions to, go through the Hollywood system, as it were? At least as it was at the time, because who knows what the hell it is now? It's more like, the big tech system. And then, the bridge is built that way. Like, is that how that works? I think it's like, I know it's the eternal question, I guess, that, people like us have. But still, like, how do we get there? This is doing the working, is trusting the working, is, saying, okay, that ship has sailed, I have to move on to another ship. I have to go to a different, like, another land,
Yeah. In a related thing, there was this question that I was asking myself about I guess, what for lack of a better word, the work or the art.
Right. The art. That's probably being better.
When the art becomes work, is it still art to you? When the art becomes work, is that still, is it still the same for you? I gotten very, very, wow, my vocabulary is going out the window here. But I had gotten very scared of the fact that, so I've become a little like, well, I'll just say I'm fearful that if I was pursuing a career, always sounds really strange when you start saying like, the industry, a career, my art.
Yes, I agree.
When you're not in it, it sounds like, you're standing outside of the party trying to talk about the party, like what's going on in the party.
Exactly.
Now, say you had this creation, something dwelling within your head, and you mean for it to be a film. Okay, so to make that happen, you become professional, and the art becomes it becomes your work and starts kind of eating away at you, like jobs can.
That's right.
Does it? Right. Will it ruin it for you?
Yes.
So I think that was one of the reasons why I wasn't so. I guess maybe I invited myself into taking on a new career where I'd be like, I will not poison my creative thing, my art.
Yes. Yeah, no. Can I jump in here really quick?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I totally 100% agree. That's exactly what happened to me, and I still feel that way. I think I've become a bit more. I think I toughened up a little, if you can even apply it, if that's the right word for it. Because that's it. I'm glad that we're on the same page in this regard, because I don't think a lot of people. Oh, you know what? I'll say this. I don't think a lot of people I've met personally knows what that's like. That when you I don't want to say indulge in it, but when you work, well, again, like you said, it's like these sort of like these inappropriate terms for this. It's like when you enjoy. That's probably the best way to say it. I think when you enjoy working, when you enjoy, I guess, that activity, when you enjoy that work, I guess, I'm for lack of a better word, it's not work, but it's the work, it's the joy of doing something that you know you can do, that you love, right? It's like this pond. It's like this body of water that you do not want to taint. It's like this really beautiful thing. And especially when you go back to it, often, and then you come back, you're feeling, rewarded by it time and time again. Yeah, it gets a little tough, and maybe people won't connect with it, but at the same time you do. So that's why you go so often as you do, right? But then, exactly what you said, when you try to make it into something that's not a pond, when you try to make it into something else, like if you try to make it, like if you try to, making it like a processing plant, for lack of a better explanation, right? It's like, then it totally changes it. And I dreaded that, I still do. I still struggle with that a lot. I still want to make sure that that place is not touched, because that's sort of the only way. That's the sort of like the only way of bliss or individuality that I have, in a weird way. Because when I go there, it's just like, okay, I can do anything. It's that limitless aspect to things. But yeah, it's something that you don't want to mess around with, because it still feels like a bit of there's an individuality that still, inhabits that area, right? And when you go there, or when you start to compromise it, I don't know about you, but I start feeling like a little bit like shit. Like this is not something I can just compromise or just take advantage of for my own sake, because it's a connection to something else, maybe, and call it God or whatever. I didn't mean to get too philosophical or spiritual. Not to say that those are bad things, of course, but at the same time, it's like I agree 1,000% with what you said. 1,000%.
Yeah.
It's just one of those, especially with what you said in regards to career, because when you start to, I knew you were deep about this, about the craft, about the art. I didn't know we were in the same kind of boat in this regard. I'm a little bit astonished by it. I won't lie. It's just that for me, it always felt like something that it's intangible, that I couldn't really communicate to people, because they wouldn't get it. Unless you're in that, unless you do it, they don't get it.
Yeah, so. No, it's I've had some friends and acquaintances, kind of in the same. Not always the same. I'll say similar. Maybe they went to art school. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just loved films.
Sure.
There are very few people that I really kind of connected with, and I always kind of felt that maybe there was a similarity in the way that we kind of perceived things, even if we had different approaches to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you read a lot more than I do. Like I said, I'm a lazy reader.
Lazy reader.
So
I don't think so.
yeah, it's that as far as reading, it's something that we don't have in common. But I think that because we have almost like a common outlook on what it is that we want to see happen.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons why, like we met at college.
Mm-hmm.
You came, like we've remained friends. We've had pretty consistent interaction, even just by phone or email and such.
Sure. There was a gap of time where for one reason or another we weren't in communication, but aside from that, it was still pretty consistent.
I think a lot of that might have been when I went to Plattsburgh.
No, even before then, I think. Before then.
Maybe it was a little. You know what? Yeah.
When you're going to school again.
I think a little bit, there. But I mean, I did come to. I was talking to Ann. We did come to.
The weddings and the parties.
We came to see you and Sabrina in Jersey.
Sure.
You came to my wedding. I went to your wedding.
Of course. Yeah.
We were both at Shannon's wedding.
Yep.
So we've kind of remained that. I have other people where there is an inconsistency to that.
Me too.
So yeah, it's
big inconsistency.
There must be something there. So
yeah. No, yes, it's yeah. Yeah. See, now this touches into another part of at least my life, where the inconsistencies happen amongst people, where it's not exactly too pleasant, And how is it that we can? Some people sort of just gel, and others. Then there's a category of people that you think you gel with, and you don't gel with as much. And then there's some people that you're kind of like, I don't gel with these people. I might have grown up with them or liked them a little bit, but I can't be friends with them, or it's just not working.
Yeah.
It's like there's that disconnect. And I mean, that's sad. I mean, you like to think that, you can get along with a broad array of people. But I mean, for me personally, it's more like, I don't know, maybe I subscribe a bit too much to the whole, when you're exposed to a certain kind of toxicity, that you perceive as toxicity, you sort of take a step away, take a step back. If there's a dysfunction, if you can't work it out anymore, take a step away, take a step back, see what you can do to sort of remedy the situation, as it were. Don't go into it like with flying fists or whatever. Just back off a little bit. But yeah, it's just a matter of finding the right people. What you said you wanted to comment on some of the stuff I talked about in my latest episode of the podcast that I do, the Back on the Track, the WWE Rawcast or whatever.
Well, one of the things is doing about like a workspace, which
yes.
See, I know you've your living quarters area. Man, my vocabulary is like
where it's failing.
It's like a locked in, kind of thing. Like I know the words. Yeah. Why won't they just come out of my mouth?
Welcome to my world.
Now, for a while now, my family and I, we've been wanting to move to actually. We've been a little wide open to where we might eventually move to, but where we want to move to is going to be what I want to describe as a forever home.
Of course, it's a beautiful thing.
Still renting an apartment right now.
Yeah.
On Long Island. So if you ever want to find a place to waste money, it's renting on Long Island.
Long Island.
One of the thoughts was I grew up in Pennsylvania. Living is a little cheaper in Pennsylvania.
It certainly is.
I love it. People say, well, if you move to Pennsylvania, you're going to be away from the city. And I'd be like, you know what? I haven't been to the city in a social way in years. So, and I also have small children. I don't think it's going to be an issue right now.
Nope. That's true. So you're thinking about going back to where you grew up in a way, or
Well, maybe not that exact area, but like there is some opportunities in places in the Lehigh Valley, like Bethlehem, Allentown.
yes, off 78.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a thought. And one of the issues we have right now is in terms of workspace. My wife has now gotten into animation. Again, she went to Pratt Institute for traditional animation. And
Cool.
she has been doing animation on the computer. She's got and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, a Wacom tablet.
I don't know if it's Wacom or I hear it pronounced Wacom as well. So
I don't know, the box
Wacom.
the box is around here somewhere.
Yeah. WACOM basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she also has an animation table, which
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I always like whenever I talk to Shawn. Well, not lately, but whenever we have our infrequent conversations, I'd be like, I want to see Anne's animation table.
right now it's in storage and has been in storage since 2016.
Yeah.
And being 2021 right now, I know my wife is not bothered by it because she's now doing projects through the computer, but she still wants to, just for character design, she wants her table back.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have space for it.
Yeah.
I don't have space to be doing the stuff I want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
We have a small table in our kitchen, which is enough for, it's a four chairs. Juan has sat there.
Oh yeah, it's a cute space too.
Yeah,
I liked your previous apartment too. When Sabrina and I came over for Shannon's wedding, and you were kind enough to invite us over for like a brief drink, I guess.
Yeah,
they show us your wedding pictures too. That was a cool space as well.
We had a big table then because we had an enormous kitchen.
Yeah, it was a cool kitchen.
Yeah, but the idea was to actually have a home. Like this is a home, but it's especially now, like, I have two daughters and it's just everybody kind of lives on top of each other right now.
Sure.
And we kind of have the means to find a home, but it's all about kind of timing, and we can't just pick up and leave because, well, we're in a little better spot now because my wife went back to work, so now she would actually be able to find another job because she has a startup job.
Sure. Oh.
But to go back to the whole thing is, I don't know what I go back to do as a job. Like, I already know I'm not getting the same kind of job I had before. And I'm totally fine with that. But the idea is I need to find a job and my wife needs to find a job so that we can support our family. Again, I'm kind of going off track here because it has to do with workspace. No,
but it's still relevant. It's still relevant.
Yeah,
that's obvious.
I really want a workspace. Like I always talk about wanting to have an office, and I have a hobby of collecting whiskey, so I want to be able to make shelves and put my whiskey on them.
Sure.
But, like, it would be a great place to be able to have a desk, to have the animation table in there, to
of course
maybe not have to share a laptop. To be doing things like this.
Right.
And, it's a little frustrating. It's something I always kind of think about. It's like, wow, I wish I had space.
Well, Sabrina and I just thankfully we found this. I gotta tell you about this some other time, but it's like we found this house that we purchased a few months ago, and we were looking for a few years too. So when this came around, it's sort of like it really felt like suddenly, like these, like in this regard anyway, some pieces fell into place, and okay. I'll put it this way. It was. I think we got it because we put in an offer for it, and we got it due to like no small part based on a letter that we wrote. So it was really interesting because they were the sellers are saying, okay, why don't you tell us about you guys a little bit, and then we'll see if we'll consider you. We'll consider your bid. So I took a day to write this letter, and of course Sabrina and I, we sort of workshopped it, and it's just how funny how life works, because there's so many things that I'd applied for work over the years that I would not get. That's another thing we should talk about, like my steady stream of like no, who are you? No. It was just so disheartening. It was so traumatic too. That it's like, okay, let me write this. Let's see. I mean, at the very least, let's just put our best foot forward, and then write something that not just saying, oh, okay, like we really want this house, but it's more like, okay, this is who we are, and really we have nothing left to offer us in regards to our personalities aside from this is how we are, this is us, right? And they and liked us so much that they accepted the bid for the house, and it was a lengthy kind of process after that, because we had to find a mortgage and all this stuff, but we ended up closing, and the neighborhood has just sort of been really kind of like spookily happy. It was yeah, it's just these neighbors that we have, I'm telling you, it's just really strange, because all these people are really nice. And I don't think nice in even a fake way. It's like a legitimately nice way. I'll save some stories for like maybe some future shows, or maybe when we're off the air or something, but it's been kind of really weird how much this house is nice. It's really cool. Anyway, besides all that, yeah, so this house, I think you saw the photo of it back when I was still on, like, I had a personal profile on Facebook, and then I took it off because it was like, I can't do this stuff anymore. It's like nonsense. And I'll tell you, really, it's like you just give people information, and even then they might not even respond or whatever. They sort of dwell on it. I have an attic space. Sabrina has like her space. There's a front room. When you guys come over, hopefully to visit our little one, you'll bring your little ones. Yeah. We have a backyard that is currently overgrown. I have to mow it. But there's like, we have like a nice open, living room and dining room, and there's a front room that has a little couch. Well, we have a big couch, we have a little couch. The front room is a little couch, and that's where Sabrina does her work, and she focuses on there. And then I have the upstairs space, which, thanks to my time off from work now, I've been, going up there and just straightening it out. I still need furniture up there, and I still need a sort of a plan to figure it out. But when I was recording the podcast yesterday, I was up there, and I have no furniture, so I'm still I'm putting the laptop and the microphone on boxes, and I'm just stretched out on the floor. So whenever you hear me say hold on a moment,
like Andre Botticelli.
Yeah. Really? Is that what he did?
Yeah, I've heard he lies on the floor when he sings.
Kidding, I didn't know that. Well, that's a humbling comparison, I suppose. But yesterday was sort of like a cramped. Yesterday felt rather isolating, I'll be honest, because I was stuck up there for an hour and like a half or whatever it was to record this damn thing, and then to export it and upload it, and then I just went downstairs and I saw Sabrina, and I'm like, I guess I can't be up there all day because it's just so isolating. And then a little bit more today, I was doing some work on another project, and it felt like a joy, because I do have that space. And I could say, okay, you know what? This is like my magic circle. Nobody's going to enter the circle unless I allow them to. And then anything is possible, you see. And then it's just that joy of freedom of expression or whatever it is that comes from having something like that. And it's not like a dusty old attic. It's actually finished a little bit. You have walls and windows are up, and we just put the AC up there too, so it's pretty good. So it's comfortable. It's just a matter of getting things set up there and finding out what my work arrangement's going to be like. So I don't know if I guess this is a forever home. that's what it feels like to us a little bit. We're not intending on moving anytime soon, and I know Sabrina loves it, and we have a baby that can come any moment now. Ooh. Literally, guys. My wife is 39 weeks pregnant, so this baby can happen even now. It could have happened at any point during this podcast, but so far, I don't think it's happening.
What do I hear? What is that?
No, yeah, you wish. That's the sound of my heart beating because I'm like, holy shit, and then, I have to count the spaces between the contractions rather.
Can I tell you? It's. I'm gonna let you in on a weird little secret. Okay.
Yeah, please. Now, because Sabrina's like, oh, by the way, Sabrina says hello, and she says anything you can do to help, anything you can tell me to help for this. Well, for helping prepare for this.
Okay, so both of my children were kind of weird stories with the way they were born. Okay. Because Anne and I were both working at a funeral home in Plattsburgh, New York, and right. Anne was having some issues with her leg that day. Her leg was swelling up, so they had her upstairs making prayer cards. Huh. And then she wasn't feeling well and decided to go to the hospital. And while she was at the hospital, they said that she had a deep vein thrombosis. Oh. Yeah, so she had a blood clot in her leg. Oh. And after they put her on blood thinners, I was about to take her home, and her water broke in the car. The brand new car that we just started leasing, her water broke in. Anyway, so later on, baby's coming, right. And baby comes. Now both of my children came naturally.
That's great.
Which was actually a really cool experience. But so Aisling, my oldest, is born, comes out. Anne's holding her. I was very happy, and the one thing I thought to myself is, shit, we are not alone anymore.
Oh, yeah.
We have to take this thing home.
That's what Sabrina said the other day. She's like, we're not gonna be alone for a while. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh my god. You know what? The reason I was silent when you were telling me about Anne's water breaking in your car was okay. There's this French couple who lived right around the corner from us, and they had just sold their house, and they moved to Hong Kong for work reasons. And before they left, I saw the husband, and they were staying at the house that's currently next to us because they were on our neighbors were on doing a road trip during July. So before the French couple left, they stayed over at their house for a few days before they left. So when I see the husband, I say, "Hey, you ready?" I just talking with him. And he goes, let me tell... I'm not going to do a French accent now. He goes, I want to give you one piece of advice. When you make sure that you put covers over the seat of your car, just in case your wife breaks water in your car. And that's the only thing he said to me. Like he's like that's the last time I've spoken with him was like when he told me like that's it. The only thing I have to tell you really is make sure you cover your car seats. And he didn't go into it. He just said, make sure you cover your car seats. And here you are telling me that you had leased a car. And sure enough, Anne broke water in the car seat. So I was going to do that today, actually. I have a paint tarp that I haven't used at all and putting it in the passenger seat of the car. But it was raining here today. I don't know if it was raining by you, but it was a little bit rainy here this afternoon, so I couldn't get around to doing that. But yeah, that's maybe I'll do it tomorrow. It's been on my to-do list because it's like, okay, time, it can happen at any moment. And I mean, every time like Sabrina says, honey, I'm like, I did your water break? Because I'm like, I'm just bracing myself. But yeah, that's it. We're just waiting it out right now. We're meant to be induced on like we're going to go to the hospital on Sunday night. And tomorrow morning we're actually going to the obstetrician. she's like the super obstetrician. She's like has like all these appointments. All these babies are being born in August. Apparently, she's getting good business. So anyway, we're gonna have to go like at 7:45. This is his appointment for, which is probably be a few hours only, but. She's going to see if Sabrina's dilated anymore, and whatever. Who knows? It can happen at any time, Shawn.
Yeah.
Any time. That's why to our audience, wherever they may be, like Shawn and I were texting all week saying, like, hey, should we do this tonight? What should we do? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I think it's safe to say we can squeeze one out, as it were. Yeah.
Well, because I was like, let's see if we can try and do one more, because it's gonna get a little hectic for you. Yeah.
And you have experience, so yeah, if we can squeeze, like, maybe that's why we should make this one a little bit longer than usual, because I mean, hey, when's the next time? You know what?
This is Zack Snyder's ShJuawnCast right here. So.
If only. Oh, did you see Justice League, by the way?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I liked it.
So did I.
Yeah, I liked it. I started watching the Joss Whedon Justice League, and I didn't like it as much. I was like, what the hell is this? I didn't like Wonder Woman. We had HBO. What's it called now? What the hell it is? What is it now? Max. HBO Max, right? And because it was HBO Now and HBO Go, and when Zack Snyder's Justice League came out, right? I started watching it, and I was like, "Oh shit, this isn't bad. This feels like this has like a definitive vision to it. Like for once, I saw Zack Snyder as this guy who had like something he wanted to say, Yeah. And I'm like, okay, like I haven't seen 300. I've seen bits and pieces of 300. I saw Watchmen, didn't like it. I'm like the only person I know who didn't like that movie. Everyone, tell me.
Okay, so Watchmen. Okay, everybody's doomed to. Did you ever read the book, like the graphic novel?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of it. I've been reading it for like the last year and a half or whatever it was. But I enjoy it very much.
It's basically it's the War and Peace, or the it's the
classic.
It's the book.
It's like the definitive,
It's the type of thing where like Alan Moore was like, I'm gonna hate any version you would ever make of this movie, because it's not a movie. It is a graphic novel. It is this piece of thing, and you're an asshole.
Right.
So anyway, the Watchmen. I think that there's actually 3 versions of it, and the one that was in the theater, which I saw at a midnight screening. What the fuck is wrong with me? Is very It's very truncated. There's like the director's cut and then the ultimate cut, and the ultimate cut has got the.
I think I saw that one. I think I saw that one.
Yeah, it has the animated version of things with the Curse of the Black Freighter.
Oh, I didn't see. No, never mind. I didn't see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you'll notice in the graphic novel that the Black Freighter story.
Yeah.
Is extremely important to the main plot.
Oh,
so if you make a movie and don't have that in it, it's already doomed, for one thing. You've also doomed it that you're even making the movie.
Huh.
So, on a sliding scale, I'm going to say, yeah, it's okay. And me saying it's okay is like it's really good for like any other type of property.
I get it. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yep.
So, yeah.
I agree. When I saw it, I was at a friend of mine's house, and it's like part of me. I couldn't help but feeling like he was like introducing me to this like this hallowed. Wow, was that really what I thought it was? We should edit that out or keep it. Who knows? But when he was showing me how Watchmen, it was like. Let's just move on. When he was showing me Watchmen, I could have done the same thing actually, and I would have gotten the same response from him. He was so like, He's like, but this is Watchmen. Why didn't you like about Watchmen? I'm like, dude, like, look, it's okay, right? But it's nothing like I just felt like at the time I didn't read I've heard of it, of course, but I didn't read it. And watching that film was kind of like getting like, like a high school production of the no, I wouldn't say that. It wasn't that bad. Not to say that high school productions are bad, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like a thing of like this adaptation that I feel like it doesn't want. I feel no like curiosity to reading the book now. This was at the time. I know I was gonna get around to it, but I was kind of like, it's okay. And you should have seen this guy's face. He's like, all right. Like it felt like this like used car salesman. He was you sure you don't want to buy this lemon? It's a really good lemon. I'm like I'm okay. I don't want it. All right. Like it's like this guy, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Like, you want to make movies? Like, why don't you go?
That reminds me. Recently, I've been listening to there's a podcast series I listen to called Blank Check.
Yes.
Now, I like Blank Check a lot, and I had recently listened to ones about Ang Lee and the Wachowskis. The Wachowskis.
The Wachowskis, full stop. Yeah. Yes.
I had heard that they're officially going by the Wachowski Starship, which I think is a Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship joke.
Is it a joke?
I don't know.
I don't know anymore.
But I realized, I was like, wow, I actually kind of like all the Wachowskis movies. They're not all They're not all great. Like, I just watched Cloud Atlas the other day, which I think is a really good movie.
I enjoyed it very much as well. I like that in Speed Racer.
Speed Racer's amazing.
Isn't it great? The guy who showed me the guy who showed me Watchmen showed me Speed Racer. So it's not like we're two like disparate points of view on films. It's like I love Speed Racer. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I really enjoyed it at the time. It's fantastic.
There's a story. There's a story they tell on the podcast about going to see Speed Racer in 3D.
Yeah.
I think in IMAX, where the final.
Wait, Sean, wait. Do you hear that? I think Christopher Nolan's getting a little bit horny. I don't know. Do you hear that? I could hear it from here. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
And this is real IMAX, not what do they call it? IMAX, and there's
the you're not talking about the
Limax.
Are you serious? There's a Limax?
L-I-E-Max. Because movie theaters after Avatar, when they started kind of deciding like, we can start getting into large format movies. So they came up with Limax. I've seen an IMAX movie. I worked at a movie theater that decided to put an IMAX screen in, and I said, that's not IMAX.
No.
Anyway, so they're talking about in the podcast seeing Speed Racer in 3D, in IMAX, or maybe it's just 3D. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. But the final race of the movie, I like. And there's this whole big thing, he's getting to the end, and there's, it almost just becomes very like a big, I think the thing is just like this whole, like feast of the eyes where the checker, the checkering of the end of the race is enveloping the screen because he's spinning around. And they say this story. The one guy, Griffin Newman, says some woman in the audience goes, ah, because it was so like such an awesome looking image that it scared the shit out of her.
Oh Lord, yeah. That was the movie my friend showed me. He's like, hey, This is when you know you like. He was trying. Not that I was like against Blu-ray, but he was like, you have to watch this on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
He's a Speed Racer, so it's like it's amazing. It's gorgeous. He just played it in his PlayStation 3 at the time, and no lie, it was a great time, man. It's fantastic. I have to watch. I watched Cloud Atlas too. I think I enjoyed Speed Racer more. Matrix we just saw. God, was it last year or the year before? I don't remember. They did a reissue of The Matrix in theaters.
Oh.
And I saw, and as soon as I found out, I told Sabrina, like, we have to go see this. Because The Matrix came out when I was it 99?
99.
So I was a sophomore in high school. But when I saw the TV spot during the Super Bowl for The Matrix, I think nothing. How can I put this? It's like I was never sold quicker on something in my entire life. I am dead serious. Yeah. When I saw Shawn, when I saw the the bullet time moment, the famous bullet time moment with Keanu Reeves on the roof.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like it was like intrinsic. It's like I need to see this movie. Like there was like no other moment. Really, there's like no other trailer that I've seen since that had that kind of like holy shit effect, like instantaneous. It was kind of like, okay, here's my money already. You know what I mean? This is I want to see this. This is like no other, like, when you hear the stories of ads just working there, just working so well that people just there's no like the line between the consciousness line just winnows away. People just give in to whatever the ad says. That was me, like at that age, seeing that TV spot. And then, recently I caught Tarantino talking about The Matrix. He went to go see the Chinese theater when it came out. And he had mentions, like, we don't know, like, we really know what the hell we were going to watch. And mostly because, he said because of the commercials, because of the TV spots. You have, like, he said he had this dawning awareness of just being there and knowing that everybody else in this theater at the time had no idea what this thing was, but they were there because they were so curious, because of the TV spot and the bullet time effect. Yeah. Dude, even the second one with the Burly Brawl, when all the cloned Agent Smiths come out of nowhere, I was thrilled when I saw it in the theater. I was with my friends at the time. We were watching that movie. I know it's probably not the best of movies. I saw it okay. I should back up. So when The Matrix came out again, a year or two ago, and Sabrina and I saw it, we went to go see it twice. It was that good. We went to go see it like on whatever that night was, that Sunday or that Saturday, and then we were so thrilled by it. We looked at each other like, "Do you want to go see it again?" And she's like, "Yeah, let's go." And then we went the next night and went to go see it again because it was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this. We're watching a movie that both of us have probably seen maybe a half dozen times by that point in our lives, and we went ahead and we saw it again. And it wasn't expensive. It was just like one of those like $5, $6 movies, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think especially with like say Matrix Reloaded, it got a lot of hate from people because they're like, this isn't like the first movie.
Right.
And I think I kind of felt a little weirded out by it, but I didn't dislike it.
No.
Looking back on it now, if you kind of like understand that some of the character interactions, especially within the Matrix, make sense if you go, oh, these are all programs.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Especially the way the internet works now and the way programs work.
Yes.
It's like, okay. There was a funny comment they made on the podcast when they were talking about Matrix Revolutions.
Yeah.
When the actress who played the Oracle, she had passed away, so
yes, they had to recast her.
And they're like, the only problem, the one guy said, he goes, I wish that they had just casted a completely different looking person. Like, why not just have Kevin? Why not just have Dennis Franz play the Oracle? He's a Chicago guy. The Wachowskis are very Chicago. Yeah.
The last thing I saw Dennis Franz in was, Dressed to Kill.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't really doing movies. I think the last movie he was even involved in was City of Angels. And
oh my God, really?
Yeah, the last movie he might have been in before City of Angels might have been like a De Palma movie or something.
Oh my God.
But I was like, that's a funny comment. I like that. Yeah.
That was a good one. No, I should check these guys out. That was not bad.
Yeah. But I mean,
I like that.
I love their thoughts on Cloud Atlas. Have you ever seen Jupiter Ascending?
I started watching it, and I got. You know what? It's not that I deliberately abandoned it. I think at the time it was kind of like because I was on. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. I know it was on Netflix there for a while.
It's still on Netflix because I just watched it.
Yes, I should watch it. You just watched it. All right, so it just got a bit too princessy for me. And that's when I get started to stop.
It's a weird movie, but I like the fact that it's an original movie. I mean, original enough when you kind of think like, this movie's entirely influenced by so many other things that come before it.
Sure.
But it looks like a movie that's based on a young adult novel that we never got to read.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
I had made a joke about how Eddie Redmayne gave the greatest performance of the 2012s, the 2010s, because it's a really bad performance and very memorable. And I was like, what was the joke I made? I made some kind of joke about how, like, memorable performances don't always have to be great. They don't always have to be good. They just have to be great.
Look at you with the quotes, yeah?
Kind of like Faye Dunaway playing Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest.
My Dearest.
A movie she won a Golden Raspberry Award, just like Eddie Redmayne.
Huh.
And she was also nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actress.
Huh.
It's a movie.
I should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think Al Pacino might have been nominated for Scarface and was also nominated for a Raspberry Award. So, is it a good performance? No. Is it great? Yes.
Yes. I know that's a great point. Yeah. It's a great point.
So,
I
got a little off track there. Yeah. Okay.
No. It's at this point we're just freewheeling it because I mean we can circle back to other stuff now, but oh shit! You mentioned Faye Dunaway. I wanted to go back to her for a second. I thought for sure you were gonna say Evelyn Mulwray in Chinatown, but she some people do not like her performance in that at all. Like I remember like taking the directing classes, and some people got it wasn't that scene from Chinatown. You know what I'm talking about. It was something else. She's my sister, my daughter. Yeah, she's my sister and my daughter. You know that one. Spoiler alert. But
the movie's 48 years old. If you haven't seen it, fuck you. Go see it.
Did you ever hear? Was it? I don't know if it was Seth MacFarlane during one of the. He hosted the Academy Awards one year, right? Didn't he?
Yes.
Seth MacFarlane.
Yes, he did.
And was it him that there was like a Lincoln joke, and then like he made a joke on the Lincoln assassination, and people in the audience were going ooh, and he just sort of like everybody's like it's been over 100 like 200 years at this point, almost like 150 years. Like how soon do we how much longer do we have to wait?
I have a story about that too, because I made the joke about how Lincoln it's not even my joke, but it was like they revived Lincoln and he spoke. And was like, what was his words? Did he ask how the play ended? Okay. And somebody was like, ooh, man, that's too soon. I was like, too soon.
Too soon?
He got killed 150 years ago. Are you shitting me?
Yep. Ooh, yeah. And you should have heard maybe you saw it and you just forgot, but it was like a collective groan amongst the audience, and I think MacFarlane was just like, "What? Is it too soon?" they mean?
Was it the
Oh,
joke
God.
about how the Spielberg's Lincoln?
Something like that, maybe.
Lankin. I just
Lankin.
Spielberg's Lincoln did really well at the box office, which is ironic because Lincoln doesn't do very well when it comes to a theater.
Oh, was that how it went?
I don't know.
Either way, that's a little bit groan-inducing, but still, I think it was a bit more colorful than that. It was just one of those things where he just looked at everybody. He's like, "What? It's too soon? Like, are you kidding me? Oh my God." The only time I watched Lincoln was on a bootleg copy. I got a bootleg copy of Lincoln somewhere, and I'm like, okay, I might as well should watch it. And I got that and Django Unchained, so I watched it back to back.
Yeah, you know what I find great about movies like Lincoln and Django Unchained? They are they're very talky, a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
Lincoln is basically like The Godfather. It's a lot of people talking in rooms.
Yes.
And I also kind of like that with Lincoln. What seems so authentic about it is when you walk into the White House, they hand you a blanket because it's freezing.
Yes. Ah. That's true. I gotta say, I mean, not to switch gears here, but you know what? I'm happy we're still on this because if you heard my last episode of the other show, right? I had wanted to ask you. I always want to talk to you about David Mamet.
David Mamet
First of all,
and
because
House of Games.
Precisely.
I'm helping you because I like you. I'm helping you because you got blonde hair.
Ah, see, you see, guys, you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sean Nolan I grew up with.
I actually used
that was
the clip
fantastic.
of House of Games in my
Yes.
and
and
going nowhere. Yeah.
Yes. But that scene with William H. Macy,
Yes.
holy shit.
So
Holy
what-
shit.
What it was is they're at a
Bus stop, right? Greyhound bus stop, wasn't it?
Crap! They're at a Greyhound.
Western Union?
But it was the Western Union.
Pardon me.
That he cons him for.
Oh, pardon me then.
And what
okay.
he does is he goes up to the clerk and says, "Is it in yet? Did it come?" Ah, and he's giving off like such an air of like, I'm so nervous and desperate.
Yes.
And he sees William H. Macy and he's like, what about, he's like, what's your story, kid? He's like, oh, going back to your family. He's like, oh, good for you. God bless. He says, I'll tell you what. He says, if my money comes in, he says, I'll get you on that bus.
Right.
He says, I want to get you back to your family. So he kind of transfers that, as you were, the confidence. To let him know he's on his side,
Yep.
And of course, there's no money coming in for Joe Mantegna.
No.
So, in a way, when William H. Macy's money comes in, he almost feels obligated, like, you were going to do for me, I'll do for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. See, I remember that. Okay, of course, I remember that way differently. It's been like maybe a few years since I've seen that movie.
Well, you got it about right.
Once.
It was about the same thing. He was
still
at
kind
a
of
bus
like
station, but it was the
right.
It was about the money coming in for the ticket. Yeah.
Okay, but still, it was sort of like, but it was mostly like a show for Lindsay Krause, right? Because Lindsay Krause was sort of like, she was being initiated into this world, right?
Yes.
And he was kind of like showing her, like, hey, by the way, this is how stupid people are, and not because, and he almost does this in a very, because he's so practiced at it, right?
Yeah.
The whole movie is amazing, man.
Well, that's Ricky Jay, showing how you can steal money from people.
Yeah.
There's a movie that Ricky Jay was the technical advisor of that you wouldn't even suspect he was. Oh, it was the Steve Martin movie, Leap of Faith.
No shit.
Yeah, where he plays the church evangelist. Yeah.
No, yeah. It's so funny. I've seen like clips of pieces of that movie, but I always remember the trailer. Like there's that part where in the trailer where he goes, "I feel the healing coming on." That's the only thing I remember from that movie. He was a technical advisor on that.
Yeah, it probably had to do about misdirection because there's a couple of things in it about like all the people that put money into the plates. When the money goes back to them, there's more money.
Okay.
So the people almost feel like there's a miracle, and
Yeah. You know what? Speaking of Mamet, and was Ricky Jay also in The Spanish Prisoner?
yes, he was.
He was, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting. In my last podcast, I had talked about how I had seen Spartan.
Right.
Which is a very different kind of Mamet movie because it's a very talky action film. Where a friend of mine had said that, that movie was going to get a theatrical release. And then when Ed O'Neill shows up and everybody starts bursting into laughter because it's Al Bundy.
Bundy from Married with Children.
They decided not to release it. And I'm like, I saw that movie in the theater.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't think
that.
you did. And I'm like, I did. I very much did.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that just shows the ignorance of people, considering the fact that Ed O'Neill started off as a dramatic stage actor.
Yes.
More predominantly, like he had been doing a lot of, he had done Of Mice and Men, playing Lenny.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was cast as the father in Family Ties before Michael Gross.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Also played Popeye Doyle in a TV movie. I don't know if you knew that.
Yes. Yeah. No. That's the deep cut. I remember, because that's before I heard of French Connection.
Yeah.
And I would, because there was a period of time in my misspent youth where, instead of, I don't know how this would work, but when I guess it was shortly after I was like, oh yeah, I really want to make movies. I want to get into movies now. Right. My dad would bring home here in New Jersey. It was the Star Ledger. And this is like during like the mid to late 90s when, newspapers were still newspapers and they were just starting. This is shortly before they were starting to be winnowed away by the internet, And he would bring home every Sunday. He would bring home the Sunday papers, and in the Star Ledger they'd have this sort of their like weekly TV guide equivalent. It was called the Scanner. So I would start studying the Scanner because the Scanner would have the listings for the week, and then at the end of the book they'd have the glossary or the index for the films that were being shown for that week across the networks. And they would have starred reviews. I mean, the reviews would be like a blur, right? Blurb. But, that's how I started getting like sort of an education on what the great movies were. And how I found out about Hitchcock, I think, at that time was when AMC, before it became, the hip golden age of TV, not the second golden age of TV network that it became like in the 2010s with,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My AMC experience was that they used to show all the Jaws movies out of order.
Yes. Yeah. That was before. Yeah.
Jaws
this
2,
way before then.
Jaws 4, Jaws 1, Jaws 3. That would be like.
Well then, well, back then they used to be called American Movie Classics.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah, mm-hmm.
And it would be. Oh my God. Okay. No, it wouldn't be. Who would it be? Because he usually would get older gentlemen to host the movies. And I forgot who it was at the time, but they would have like a Hitchcock like summer or a festival or weekend or something, and they would play like just Hitchcock, for that Saturday. And when I saw it, they would end with Vertigo, and it was like a widescreen presentation of Vertigo, which is like, this is for like this was for the film fags, That's what they would say that. But anyway, yep. So, if you saw it, that's how I saw Vertigo, was on AMC with widescreen presentation. So, but it kind of like how can I put it? It kind of like undercut itself because, at the beginning of Vertigo, if you remember, right before the title sequence starts, right, there's a point where it says VistaVision. Mm-hmm. And VistaVision, of course, is meant for, was it ultra widescreen? Was it ultra widescreen? Is that what VistaVision was?
Yeah, it was like an odd kind of format thing that Paramount was doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you see it like that, it's kind of like, it's It's like looking at the Mona Lisa through microfiche or something. It's like it's not supposed to. It doesn't have the same effect, but it's still wondrous, right? If you don't know what the hell VistaVision was and you see it like this, you're like, what is that? You know. So that's when I was looking through like the scanner and then reading through like the glossary, and then later on it was like just leaving the preview channel on. That's how I became educated with movies. I don't know why the hell I started rambling on about this, but that's how I ended up like listening to like Leap of Faith, the trailer for Leap of Faith was way back when. So that's how I don't know.
Yeah, because it was Leap of Faith and
Popeye Doyle.
Popeye
Doyle. Yeah, that's right. And then it was only relatively recently where I was like when I watched French Connection, and I fell asleep during French Connection 2. Connection harder. I couldn't.
I'll say French Connection 2 is not bad, but if you're a really big fan of the first one, you almost have to say, this is like a novel. Just imagine this is another Popeye Doyle adventure. Mm-hmm. Don't think of it as being a sequel, even though in the sequel he does. It's a continuation of him going after Fernando Rey.
Right. Right.
The other interesting thing I was going to say about David
Mamet.
David Mamet and Steve Martin was that apparently Steve Martin in his book My Life
the
Standing Up he talks about how he was in The Spanish Prisoner.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And he shows up really early in the movie.
He does.
And when he said when there was a screening of it, and people just started laughing when he shows up. And the movie is like it's a Mamet movie. It's it's a double cross, triple cross, blah 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 blah, and it's not a funny movie at all.
No.
And he was like, "Oh, this is why I can't be in dramatic films."
Dramatic, right.
And I was like, wow. "Oh man, that blows." I'm like,
yeah. Well, I mean, Ed O'Neill was also in Spanish Prisoner. Is that what you're referencing to?
Well, yeah.
Was he in Spartan too?
Because Ed O'Neill is in Spartan. He's in The Spanish Prisoner.
Yeah.
Because I think he might have showed up. I think he might have actually done Mamet on stage too. Because that's how Mamet kind of became associated with Alec Baldwin.
Right.
Was because Alec Baldwin was doing My Life in Theater. And also he did The Edge, which...
Your favorite movie.
Yeah, my favorite movie. Glenn Bear.
Bear. Oh, Bear McPherson. He's in that.
The most talky action film ever made, where Alec Baldwin says the word Charles like 170 times. Charles.
Did you ever see Alec Baldwin do an imitation of Anthony Hopkins? It's spot on from that movie. It's spot on. Search YouTube for it. It was like on this other show. I forgot where it was, but he imitates like Hopkins to like the damn T. It's really spot on. Like he's like I forgot who he was when he goes, "The wind through my hair." Like, he said it. It's exactly right. Holy shit! It was really good. Damn, I wonder what that was. I have to think about it. But you know what? I gotta confess something to you. I love things that take place in Alaska or like the Northern Territory, except for with the exception of maybe the ice road. It was all right, but it was like it's not what I. It's not.
Which you talked about on the last cast.
In the last one, right? But the thing is, there is this TV show called Millennium with Lance Henriksen. I love that show. Yeah. And there was an episode on the second season that revolved around. It was very similar to was it Into the Wild? It was the same plot it was the same story, but condensed down to an hour version, which I thought was still really effectively done. And interesting. I just thought of The Grey, another Liam Neeson movie that takes place.
Oh yeah.
You love that one too. I wasn't too big a fan of that, but yeah, go ahead.
I think that it might be a bit of a. I guess the best way to put it, it's a bit of a misdirected.
Survival movie?
Well, okay. I here's the problem with it. I don't know how you market a movie like that.
Okay.
And it's I mean, I used a clip of that movie even in my project too.
I do remember. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I will tell you that when I worked at the movie theater, it has a very divisive ending for anybody who hasn't seen it.
I did see it. Yeah, I saw it.
Which brought a lot of people coming up to me going, "I want a fucking refund."
My fun.
I was like, "You just watched the whole movie." When I think if you were to know that movie is about grief and loss and accepting mortality, you kind of enter into it in a very depressing and maybe a little more of an engaging way. When you kind of realize that everybody you're about to see on that screen is going to be dead by the end of the film.
Yeah.
Just accept that, but you need to be there for how it happens and why.
Jesus, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Because I saw that movie with my wife, and she said to me, "Goes, wow, that was a really powerful movie," and I was like, "There was something to it, right?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's not for everybody, and I'm not the kind of person who pushes movies on people." And to go back to the whole thing about The Matrix, I used to know a lot of people who'd be like, "Oh my God, this Sunday, man, when we go to church, it's The Matrix."
Okay.
I'd be
what
like,
the hell's that about?
Okay.
Okay.
Is this Battlefield Earth?
I didn't know that was... All right, I'd have to... Okay, that was weird.
I was like, the Matrix is all about us learning about Xenu. I don't...
That's funny, man.
It's a movie, man. Don't make a religion out of the movie.
No, well, that's some of the shit I've been reading about Scientology lately. Oh God, never mind. That's a whole other thing.
I think though with my wife though, she was I haven't lost a parent.
Of course.
My wife at that point had already lost her father. So and plus even in, I think it was 2010, we hadn't even started going to school for mortuary science, for, funeral directing. So I hadn't had any kind of real interaction with death. I had some family members die, but I didn't have anybody super close to me. When you have a little bit more of an, it's there, something that actually interacts with you. Sometimes a movie will affect you, regardless if the movie is great.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Obviously, at least for director Joe Carnahan, he reached one person.
It's true. Yeah.
But I like the Gray too. So, and I like the Edge.
Yeah. I'd have to. Well, you know what? I should go back and watch it because I did not get that from the Gray. In fact, it was like it felt like another film. Honestly, it didn't feel like anything that stand out really aside from like the settings. But I should check that out again. Honestly, now that you mentioned the context that it affected you guys, because I did not read it that way.
I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to mean anything to you. It just,
no, but the thing is, it's like when don't get me wrong, it's like whenever like my curiosity is always piqued when it's like people say like, oh yeah, I read this movie this way, and I'm like, really, shit, I should go back and watch it because I didn't see it that way at all. It's like the typical kind of like intrigue revisit of a film. It's like, okay, I kind of want to see it from this other angle now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I should do that. I mean, I don't know. Like, eventually, it's just going to be one of those titles on my list. I don't know what the hell I'm going to revisit it, but yeah. Typically, when it comes to like like northern sort of like, especially like Alaska, even oh my God, Insomnia would still fit into that. Northern Territory, Northern Latitude, action adventure, intrigue, even mystery crime films, I guess, would I kind of like because the setting is just so powerful that you almost it lends itself really well to something that's pretty well crafted, even on a reasonable level. I think just trying to just not really just getting something that's not too involved, that you can just, or even no, the opposite. Like I haven't watched Insomnia in a long time. I haven't watched the movie that it's based on. Wasn't Insomnia also produced by Steven Soderbergh, the Nolan version?
It may have been.
Okay.
Yeah, I had seen the Nolan one before I saw the one that Stellan Skarsgård's in. Yeah. Which, a little side note. Have you ever heard of the podcast, How Did This Get Made?
Yes, but I haven't heard it. But yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, they refer to the lady on it, June Diane Raphael.
You know what? I haven't listened to it, but I guess I stumbled onto it this past week for some reason. Maybe it was a reference to you. I don't know, but yeah, keep going.
She refers to Stellan Skarsgård. I don't remember what movie they were talking about, but she called him Stellan Skateboard.
All right.
So they have shirts made up of Stellan Skarsgård on a skateboard.
Merchandising.
Exactly. Anyway, the original, because I think it's Norwegian. It's not a Swedish movie, like because he's Swedish.
Swedish.
It's a good movie. I remember it was on Criterion. I took it. I rented it from Hollywood Video, and I'm like, wow. This is good.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's kind of boring. But one thing I kind of liked about the Nolan version is at least it might not be as like great, but I think that some of it's kind of made a little better.
Yeah. I think I know what you mean.
It was kind of my big thing when I talked about the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yes.
Where the original Swedish movie, everybody's like, it's a ride or die thing. Like, the Millennium Trilogy, you either love these, you just don't like them at all. And I'd be like, well, the David Lynch movie is made a lot better and looks better. Yeah,
I felt more focused. Yeah, I think so. I mean, well, the thing of it is, though, I think they pussied out on the Millennium Trilogy on the American take, the remakes, I guess, of that, because I was so looking forward to the rest of that. I saw the Millennium Trilogy, and I ended up like really, 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 really liking it. Yeah. And I was like, shit, if Fincher does this, and I think he kind of did it in his own severely roundabout way, in a certain sense, because ultimately, what if I remember correctly, the Millennium Trilogy is about someone who's sort of on the fringes of society, as it were, exposing the corruption within the society, right? That's essentially what, isn't that it?
Yes. Here's the interesting thing, though. The first book and first movie adaptation is, well, because they never made any American versions, so I'm not going to really attest to this, but I heard those are very good because it's more about like the investigation, whereas everything's a little more subtext about Lisbeth Salander. Whereas part 2 and part 3, which is the girl who
kicked the hornet's nest? No,
kicked the hornet's nest, and the other one was the girl who played
I don't remember
fire.
them. Right.
Are just about her, and I was like, yeah, I kind of like the more mystery noirish one better. Yeah. So I was almost kind of like, well, if they make these, I mean, I don't know. I think they already kind of like lost the magic of it. I'm like, it's almost like making the Pink Panther or something, where it's like, here's another Lisbeth Salander joint. Like,
Yeah, but the thing is, though, because I haven't read the books, right? It's funny because I have a biography on Stieg Larsson here somewhere. I bought it at a dollar store. I'm like, what the hell is this doing here?
He's the author.
And I bought it. Yeah.
Okay.
And I started reading it like a long time ago, and I still have it. I haven't read it, but it's around here somewhere. Or I would still be at my parents' house, maybe. I don't know. It's somewhere. But I remember still have it. And I know I thought, okay, if I ever, finish this book, I'll get around to reading, his works, his proper works. Not like the time, the post mortem works that he's done, the posthumous, I should say, the posthumous works that he's been accredited as doing. But guess is a good segue. And I always, after watching Millennium Trilogy, I thought, shit, this would be really, really good if Fincher does, take the mantle of this. And I was going to go with this was that I think he tried to do like the sort of the corruption saga in his own way with starting with well, no, he already kind of started doing it even with Seven, and then on the side stepping, the focus of it with maybe Fight Club and maybe even The Game a little bit. But then when he did this, I know I'm jumping ahead in his filmography a little bit, but then he also started doing House of Cards, which that went off the rails, and I thought it was pretty good for like the first maybe few seasons.
And there's nothing problematic about any actor in that movie. Nothing at all. Everybody is squeaky clean.
Squeaky clean. It's very funny, but. And here's the thing, Sabrina and I didn't like. We were like, my dad introduced me to the show. I've heard of it, right? And he's like, I started watching it. It's really good. You should watch it. I'm like, shit, all right. And then I started watching it, and Sabrina and I started watching it together. And then when the last season, the Spacey Free season came out, and he was dropped from that show, and it was this Robin Wright. I'm like, okay, you know what? I could have. I know it was going in this direction, but the way they handled it, there's a few things in the show that I think they mishandled. Like third season, okay. Are you like aware of that? Like, are you like intimate with the show? Do you know?
Never saw the last season.
Me neither. Well, we didn't finish watching it yet.
I'm not sure if I finished the last Spacey season.
Okay, no, we finished watching the last Spacey season. What I think they should have gone with the show, honestly, was that they should have just been like okay, when he became president. At the end, was it season 2 or 3? I forgot. I think was it season 2 where he became president at the end of season 2?
Oh, geez, I'm trying to think back on some of the. It's been such a long time since I even.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, same here. But he became president eventually, right?
I think that was the end of season 2.
3. Yeah. I think it's the end of season 2 because season 3 wasn't that good in my opinion.
Because he starts off season 3 as president, and that's the whole problem he has with like the Russian president. I think.
Yeah, and I think, and they try to do like this like Putin thing.
Yes.
And what I think they totally mishandled that because even at the very beginning of that season, as you remember, they were playing him as a position of a weak president. That they shouldn't have done that. What I think they should have done was that he should have been like you remember at the end of the second season, right? Like when he was coming into his when he got into office, he knew the exact moves he had to make in order to sort of solidify his grasp of that position. And wouldn't it have been awesome if third season he'd be like a kick-ass president? Then you'd have to love him in spite of him, right? Right? Because then it's like, okay, if he was a kick-ass president, you'd be like, shit, this guy's an evil motherfucker, but at the same time, he's amazing. Like, he's taking care of these things left and right, but at the same time, it will dial up the Machiavellian Richard III ness of it. They watered him down because I don't think they were. In fact, that season was sort of. Remember they did that weird mandala thing? They got like these Buddhist monks to come down to like the.
That's right. Yeah.
Remember that? And they were playing on this whole thing where like this spiritual, whatever this was, the spiritual bond, if you can even call it that, between him and his wife was sort of being tested at that point. I'm like, that was totally the wrong play. Totally the wrong play you should have done. What you should have done with this damn show, and I didn't even see the BBC thing. I started watching, I'm like, this is too dry. I'll get around to it eventually, maybe, if ever, right? But what they should have done with the show, honestly, is like they should have scaled him up. To be like I literally thought they were going to do this. I thought they were going to just make him like king of the world. Honestly, that would have been so ballsy. Like he was like president of the United States. He does such a great job. Even though he's evil, he's like an evil as fuck guy. What does he do next? Well, you know what? I'm not satisfied with that. What else can you do? Like, just feed his ambition. Feed his ambition. Because I think we have this like this weird kind of like watered down perception of what politics really is a little bit, where it's like, well, nobody can be king of the world. That's so backwards. That's not possible. Like, of course it is. Of course it is. People like this will actually engineer a role for them to play that won't sound like king of the world, but they're actually doing something like that. I mean, as unreasonable as that may sound, how fucking awesome, how crazy, not, I don't know about awesome, but how crazy would have been if that actually happened.
Yeah.
Like people just loved this guy, Francis Underwood. They wanted like be king of like run this country, run that country. And can you imagine like Spacey giving with the camera saying like, all right. Something like that. It would have been, dude, they so fell off the rails with that show. So fell off the rails with that show.
Well, you got like a show that's based on a British show that's, I don't know, 2 seasons and a Christmas special. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
but that third season, if they pumped him up, if he was succeeding in spite of himself, like no, not even in spite of himself, in spite of the people who hate him, right? Like he would get off, he would just do like more and more egregious crimes, and then. Even if he was exposed, people would overlook it. That would be what the genius turn of the show would have been, maybe in the 4th or 5th season, where like he's totally exposed. Like these people who catch up to him say, like, look, Francis Underwood is not this great guy. He's done this. He murdered this person. He maybe he would have done like an ethnic cleansing of all these different people because of him. He's not a good person. And then people were like, yeah, but the economy is doing really well. There's been no terrorism anywhere. You could have just gone on and on about the list of positives. And then he would have just been like, sitting, leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed, with his feet up on the table. He's like, okay, so what do you want to do with me? And then it would have been like a reverse Palpatine, where it's like, Palpatine's got to be overthrown. But in this case, you don't overthrow the guy. You install him even further.
No. So I had to put that in there. Yeah. Well, here's my big thing about this, is that I'm not a very political person, but I'm also I have a pretty good bullshit meter.
Yeah.
And I tell you that I have a very myriad collection of friends and family of the wide political spectrum.
Sure.
Which becomes very... trying.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of people who talk a lot and don't know a lot.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm not a political person. I tend to do a lot of my own research.
Sure.
And a lot of my research doesn't come from the news.
Yeah, right.
Which is interesting because I have a lot of family members who goes, oh, I don't get any of my information from the news. And I'm like, are you sure? Because everything you just said sounds like something that came from the news.
Yeah. Can I throw in that really that great Mark Twain quote about if you don't read the paper, you're uninformed, but if you read the paper, you're misinformed. Well, I'm sure I get it backwards.
Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
I hope it's true.
If you read the paper, you're misinformed.
If you don't read the paper, you're uninformed. Yeah.
My only real instance of this is that recently, because of everything going on with, say,
everything
pandemic. If you want to believe there's a pandemic, I'm not putting that on anybody.
Right.
If you don't want to, I can tell you. I embalmed 250 people last year that were COVID positive. Let's say at least half of them were. Yeah. Whereas there's a big conspiracy about the fact that people aren't really COVID positive. I don't really want to hear it because...
Well, you were there.
I have... You know what? The only thing I'm going to tote is I have a little bit of medical training. A little bit. Little bit. Not a nurse, I'm not a doctor.
Sure.
But I did have to take a lot of medical classes. It's a part of my training. It's a part of my my calling as a funeral director. Sure. You have to know about whether or not people are dying or dead. Because if you didn't, and you start embalming them, and they wake up and go, hey, what are you doing to me? And you go, oh, oopsie daisy,
Shawn.
I'm very sorry.
It's like that scene from Spies Like Us. Do you remember that scene?
Yes. Yeah. Believe me, I have been in a situation like that where
Oh my God.
I literally screamed at the person and then twisted some piece of meat on their neck, and the person woke up.
Are you serious? Holy
Yeah.
shit. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
What was I saying? Anyway,
yeah, you're talking about the pandemic and the veracity of such.
So what happened is that because of the internet, I will find articles written by doctors, not politicians. You stay away from that. Find doctors. There's going to be doctors who will advocate and people who will be against, because I guess even doctors have their own agendas.
Yeah.
But it is hard to say get away from certain things that are factual that they will say.
Right.
And when I've had some friends of mine who don't seem to kind of understand what they say, and I will direct message them to say, you should probably take this off because it's not exactly correct. You know, let's just say I'll get an umbrella effect of what people react to me with, which is nerd.
Oh, really? Really?
You
really?
fucking liberal.
Really?
Or, whatever. You know what? He's like, you know what? Facts are fake. The way I feel is real.
Oh, Lord. Ooh, here we go.
I guess, how exactly do you respond to facts are fake, the way I feel is real?
Real.
Meanwhile, what people don't really know is that the way they feel is just a response that their neurons are giving them because we are in the Matrix. To bring it back to that. Anyway.
Sure, why not? At this point. Yeah.
And as David Mamet has said in many of his scripts, fuck.
Oh, that should be it. That should be the closer.
Hey, that's the
Always
final line of Eyes Wide Shut.
Shut.
Fuck.
It is.
Fuck.
It is.
Okay.
It is. Always be closing.
Yeah.
Always be closing.
And I'll close out my last thing with saying this. Art is the effective transmission of experience, which may or may not be Tolstoy. I don't know.
Damn, but if it isn't, it's one of yours, right? I hope. That's really
it's not
good.
Mine. Somebody else.
Oh, damn it. Well, that would have been a nice wrap up if you said fuck and then we cut, to the, but I mean, let's just malinger a little bit longer, I think, right? Just to make it an even, let's see, 10:30, 12:30, 11:30, 12:30. Shit, is this a 5-hour broadcast?
This is the longest we've done so far. It's
you know what?
3 hours and 40 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean,
because
who knows if we're going to do this in the next 2 weeks? Yeah, exactly. We're often, especially me. But what do we wrap with? I mean, we just had this long rambling in parts road of conversation here, and I like how once we got into the meat of our sort of collegiate experience, as was sort of that's where episode 1 was heading, and then we got further into it with episode 2, and here we're like, okay, we touched upon like our post SVA experience, especially with some of the stuff that you said. I didn't know about your pseudo agent experience. That's I did not know about that. You're right. I don't think you know about this.
Little embarrassing. That's one of the yeah.
I think maybe you can bring this home to the Hemogoblins. Because in a way, I mean, we're talking about this, and we're talking about the Hemogoblins in a roundabout way, especially with our experience with people who may not be on the up and up and so forth. And it goes both ways. It could be people who are on the up and up, and there are people who don't trust those people who are in the up and up, and they have their own reasons for it. But with the Hemogoblins, right? Okay. I guess I should say this. It's like, how do you see us passing the level of our life that invites these things into our life? Is it like you sort of ignore them? You can respect their destructive power, and you're like, okay, I see you. Don't come near me. Move on. Or is it kind of like, whatever, I'm running away?
Well, I think many of my Hemogoblins existed when I was in more closer proximity. They're not really around as much anymore. The only real, as to put them, the Hemogoblins that I do have, maybe, and I had told you this, I think, in the one cast, was that they're people that are trying to feed off of the energy that I'm producing, where I'm like, you got to find your own thing, man. This is like, I don't mind helping you, but you can't steal my thing. You gotta, you come up with your own thing, and I'm there. But you know, like, for you to show up and say, like, hey, I want to do something, and we should do something. I know how it's going to end. It's going to end with you wanting to be like, to bring it back to Cloud Atlas, there's a scene in the movie with the composer, and the younger composer comes up with this piece of music, which is the Cloud Atlas Sextet. And the older composer, played by Jim Broadbent, says, that's the song that's been playing in my head. We must have come up with it together. And it's like, that's how I feel. It's like, no, this was mine, man. You can't claim ownership of something that was so personal to me.
Right.
Wow, I got a little dark there, but yeah, you know what I mean.
No. But you totally validated. Come on.
If a friend of mine has something they want to do and they want some help, yeah, it's fine. But I'm almost kind of, I think because of my past, if somebody says to me, hey, what do you got? I'd be like, I got nothing. What do you have? Because I'm doing my own thing, okay? But,
Yeah. Well, then how do we, like, because for, maybe we still feel this way, but for a good long while there, it's like, okay, how do you learn to find the trust in people again? I mean, right? It's just when you get, betrayed or hurt or scored so badly that you either, this is so, there's so many facets to this. It's like, and I think we've been fairly adept at exploring them so far. It's just that even the way you described the story that you had in mind, which articulates, I think, a lot, especially in my life, where it's like you feel like you're so good at something, maybe you think you're too good at something, that you want to devote your life to it, but then due to circumstances, you can't just quite do it just yet, or if at all, and then you get waylaid, and then from there, you discover, forgive me for repeating us, but you discover other aspects of your personality that can somehow succeed, right, in spite of yourself. And it's like, okay, well, what do I do with this now, right? Is it just another kind of like merry-go-round where you feel like you're going to fall into another trap where you feel like, okay, maybe I'll pursue this instead, and then you end up being too good at that, and then what's interesting is isn't it ironic that you can be good at something, but it ends up trapping you? Isn't that weird?
Oh yeah.
That's something that occurred to me too. It's like, how does that happen? Like I've thought about this quite a bit, where where, is there a seduction that takes place where you feel like you want to keep on going with this, and other aspects of your life won't agree with it, and not that you're trapped by it, or maybe you are, I don't know, but then you just feel like, you know what, just a little bit more, just to see where it goes, just a little bit more, and it just becomes like the trademark addiction. So I guess philosophically, what I'm posing is like or like, these passions, or like these this positive pond, I guess that was my corny way of putting it. Is that any different than just seeking another drug high? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's interesting to think about, because it does. I mean, unless somebody comes along and snaps some, quote unquote, snaps some sense into you and says, okay, you know what, this is not good for you. You have to stop this. Would you even know? I mean, that's the thing about our culture, especially when we grew up, or this part of the world that we're in, where it's like the sort of like the happy thing to do is that you follow your passions, wherever it may lead you. You follow your dreams, right? But then you get lost in a corridor. It's like the end of like Lady from Shanghai. It's like in the end, are you chasing phantoms, or is this something that's even real that you want to embrace and hold and feel like they're real to a certain extent? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. I wish I could I wish I could offer some. I think there's some degree of bullshit in this, but at the same time, it's to be continued. I have no idea.
Just to backtrack to that, the ending, that's a Hall of Mirrors?
Yeah, that's the Hall of Mirrors.
Yeah, okay.
That's a great. That's
so make sure we're on the same. Yeah, okay.
No, it is. No, it is, yeah. And it's oh my god, I did not know how great Orson Welles, bro. It's like where did he come from, right? Have you seen Lady? I think it's Lady from Shanghai, yeah, or Lady of Shanghai. I forget. From Shanghai. Yeah. He has a very funny Irish accent in that movie. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay. Speaking of like funny Irish accents, man, you're. If I ever really, I mean, I need to, maybe even before the end of the year, I got to start writing Babe McTeague.
Please.
You gotta. Oh God, I got a character in this thing called I think McBain.
McBain.
And McBain is introduced as a man who he's a pimp. I was like, imagine this is like McBain. He stands on the corner, total confidence. I was like, imagine a leprechaun who's 6 feet tall. That's McBain, with what I would describe as an almost racially insensitive Irish accent.
Oh my God! What does that mean, Shawn?
I did write some pages for stuff where like he says he's like because he's like, oh babe, you're always coming after me so hard. Leave me alone. I gotta make my dollar.
Babe, you're always coming after me so hard.
Yeah, he's like I'm always after me. I'm always after me, woman. I gotta get a nice lady with big pendulous breasts.
Big racially insensitive. Big pendulous breasts. I guess leave us alone.
And there's a reason for why this like insanely Irish guy lives in, we'll call it New York-ish. Yeah, it's anyway,
let's. I think it's time. I think. Okay, I'm trying to. Okay, let's just see if we can wrap up by at least 2:30 a.m., ladies and gentlemen, because we're enjoying. I love the fact that. Wait a minute, Shawn. You're the further along we go, the happier you get, which tickles me pink.
I will admit that I've been drinking this whole time.
So that's great though. You're having a great time.
I am.
Me too.
The only thing I was going to mention was I had to go to our storage locker to go get some stuff. Mm-hmm. And I found a black case, a black box that has, I would say, 90% of everything I've written.
Oh shit, it's great.
Including the 2 television scripts I wrote for Dickie Hopper, Truant Officer.
There you go.
Which I now look at and I go, yeah, kind of funny. They're a little sexist too, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, do you see what you're hearing right now is someone's life coming back to him.
Yeah. Also,
I think so.
Way too much like cribbing from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Like way too much.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? I was learning, you know.
There you go, bro.
It's crazy some of the stuff that I found. I got very nostalgic about it. It was interesting.
I wonder what the hell we're going to talk about next time. I mean, we can go back to the SV stuff.
You know, I got some things. You know, don't worry, man. It's
we're locked.
Yeah.
What? Can you give us a clue? Give me a clue at least for next time. Assuming we're not both. I'm not like burdened by the sudden duties of fatherhood.
That's what we're well, if you're burdened by the duties of fatherhood, then you can just listen to me tell all of my, very Lothario stories, which end very sad.
Well, there was a point where I was explaining what my life was like post SVA, and one of the we cut out, right? But one of the things that was happening to me at the time was that I was head over heels in love with this one girl, and it just did not work out.
Wait,
at
did
all.
I hear this? I don't know.
No, I never told you this before, but this was what's going on. Maybe I mentioned it before, but it's like I was head over heel. Like this is we kind of sorta were seeing each other like in the summer of 2005-ish, and then not that things progressed a little bit.
Was this at school or in your private life?
Private life.
Okay.
Private life. No, you would have known if it was at school, but it didn't happen.
Well,
there.
I'm sure there's some things you don't know about me.
What the fuck? Okay. You said that way too happily.
I don't know. I'm saying it while crying.
Oh no! Okay. I am Pagliacci.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Oh shit! All right. Well, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry, bro. Don't be sorry. That was like. Hey man, whatever you want to share or whatever you're the only one you're the one who's editing this, so whatever you don't want, you just cut it out. Watch this 5-hour podcast is gonna be like 2 minutes, like it's like 10 minutes. Like I don't know what happened. I just got rid of the bad shit. Like thanks, Shawn. Thank you so much. At least I'll have my side of the story. I'll remember what happened on my side at least. All right, my friend. I think it's. Oh, see, I'm sad. I had a good time.
I know.
This is a good. Yeah. Shawn is so shit-faced right now. He's gonna wake up and like, hey, do you want to go watch a fuck movie?
What?
Do you remember that script?
Remember
that scene in that script?
Oh, what was that?
Was it something you wrote? I'm quoting you, by the way.
Jeez.
What was it? It was. Oh shit! What was it? Let's put on a fuck movie and go to sleep. Remember that? That was the one line that Everett Azen was like, nobody would talk like this. You know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, that was the big argument. Meanwhile, some people brought in like entire scripts where I'm like, nobody talks like that. It's a fuck movie. I might have to mull over that one.
McInerney.
Oh yeah, that was a little rough, and might I add, also, some of that dialogue was a little bit workshopped by some some like one-on-one sessions with teachers. So some of it works and some of it doesn't work because hey, when you're at school you're working shit out.
Exactly. Yep. Well, you're in life, you're working shit out, and you're wondering if you go back to school. It's just a never-ending cycle of bullshit.
Oh god, oh man, it's like, ugh.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the third and lengthier edition, bigger, longer, and, well, it'll probably be cut, version of the ShJuawnCast number 3. I have no idea what we're going to call this. I hope you enjoyed it for all it was worth. Well, we had a good time. Shawn, any parting words?
Yeah, let me see here. Let me figure this out. Something that would be a little more.
You should do your Shakespeare. That was fun.
Should I? Really?
That was pretty fun. Yeah, when I was listening to the second one again, I was like, when you broke into your Shakespeare, like that was actually pretty good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, give me a second.
Here we go.
Let me figure out something that I can say.
Sure.
Let's see. Maybe something. Let's see. Okay, here we go. How about I might have actually done this I'm going to do this in my own little project, but I'll do it here too. Just give me a second.
Right.
I know it's 2:30 in the morning, but I'm actually still.
But they were wrapping up,
I'm
so
having
it's
a little
okay.
bit of bourbon anyway, so.
Okay.
Oh, here
we go to sleep right after this, or work or something.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh, I gotta remember the words here. You common cry of curs, whose breath I hate, as reek o' rotten fens, whose loves I prize, as the dead carcasses of unburied men that do corrupt my air, I banish you, and here remain with your uncertainty. End scene.
All right. Really quick, I'll say this. This is a This is up to you, Shawn, if you want to include this or not.
Okay, I'll stop to.
Oh God, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
Did it go?
that was Coriolanus.
What should you say if I should? Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, what should he say if you should speak? Oh shit! I'm trying to. Oh God! Why don't I can't remember this?
Coriolanus.
I feel like I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna look this up, but I don't want to. Wait! Don't go yet. I'm trying to remember this. It ends with, villains for shame. You could not beg for grace. Oh God! How does it go? Okay, I'm gonna stop. I had it in my head. I had it.